21, and we'll start off with Ms. Solano on city updates.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, City Council, and Mayor Gradisar. I have a few updates this evening from within the city, and I'll start with the COVID updates. Today, the governor amended the public health order 2-38, and it extended the mask order, and it also amended the mask order. And 4 of the primary extensions and amendments address the following. It added to allow no masking in a public indoor space if 80% or more of the individuals in a public indoor space have provided proof of vaccination. The second one, added to allow restaurant employees to not wear masks if 85% of restaurant employees are fully vaccinated. The third was added back from a prior dial public health order language that strongly recommended that government entities and others provide non-congregate sheltering for people experiencing homelessness. And the fourth was just the expiration date of May the 15th of 2025. So this is going to just expire soon and either be extended or modified further. I don't know more about implementation, what we'll have to do in the city to confirm or verify vaccination for indoor spaces, but we'll begin to work on that amended health order tomorrow. The second is COVID data for the city today, for the county. The 1-week cumulative incident rate is still creeping up there. It's at 323 as of this afternoon. The 1-week average positivity rate is 5.6, where they were encouraging the Colorado Department of Public Health under 5. And we do have in Pueblo County 8 days of stable hospitalization. It's still hovering somewhere in the 30s. It was 38 on Friday with 3 patients at St. Mary Corwin. And I'm not certain of the number at Parkview today. It was not shared with us in a meeting earlier. It was shared that the vaccination percentage of all Pueblo County eligible individuals is now over 45%. So in the last few weeks since FEMA took over, it's creeping up from its 42%, just over 40, and now it is over 45%, but they don't have the numbers yet to confirm 46% of the eligible individuals that have been vaccinated. So that's moving in the right direction. With respect to tomorrow at the Colorado State Fair site, we're getting some help with some marketing outreach from the Denver Bronco mascot, and some of the cheerleaders. They're going to be on site from 11 to 1. They'll be providing autographs and some Bronco giveaways that are going to, we hope, encourage vaccinations while they're in this, what they call staging area, where the individuals will drive through. The second update that I wanted to share is that today was opening day for the Small Business Administration Restaurant Revitalization Fund, RRF. The website opened for applications. It is part of the funding stream, is part of the American Rescue Plan. It did establish $28.6 million to the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And the program, if your application is accepted, it will provide restaurants with a funding that is equal to their pandemic-related revenue losses. So more information is available on the SBDC websites at the state level, the local level, and the link will be on the Pueblo City homepage as well, to www.pueblo.us. So that's a good opportunity for our restaurants to submit applications. And then I did want to give you an update on the 5-star. That's another area where every week we seem to be adding 1 or 2 additional. And as of today, there are 47 certified restaurants and businesses that are 5-star certified and continue to work hard to implement the COVID safety measures and encourage customers to frequent their establishments. So I think last week I reported 45, this week 47. So again, we're increasing, but not at a fast rate. The meetings with the Pueblo Business Economic Recovery Team, BERT, are continuing on a Friday to have conversations about the next evolution of 5-star programs. And that concludes my city report. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Ms. Solano. Any questions? Councilor Flores.
Yes, as you know, we had the town hall meetings over it's been over a week ago, and I attended 4 of them with the mayor. But I'm curious as to the timetable. I noticed that we have something tonight having to do with the reading initiative, and I'm not sure that the money is coming out of that fund. But I'd like to know, I think I have some thoughts and some ideas as to how the process is going to work as far as the ideas that we got from the town halls and how they're going to be collated, how they're going to be ranked, who's going to be analyzing those, and how's the process going to look going forward, including the intervention of the city council.
You or me?
Yeah, I'll start briefly and then Laura can add. We are going to have an intern in the mayor's office starting next week, the 5th.
The 15th.
15th. Okay. Right now we're getting emails. I'm getting those emails. We're keeping those in one place with people. Number one, want to volunteer and be on the task force for the 7 pillars. You know that we've sort of made that focus. We talked about that. And these suggestions that are coming up, we're sort of categorizing those into which pillar that applies to. Obviously, we're still awaiting rules and regulations from the Department of the Treasury. We haven't gotten them yet. They're supposed to be here by the 11th of May. Mr. Gagosic tells me today that we got some advice that they might not be out until the end of May. So that will slow things down a little bit in terms of knowing exactly how the funds can be spent. But the presentation you're going to hear tonight with respect to the library, we are planning to use those funds for that purpose. And you'll hear the amounts of that later. But so I think any members of city council want to be on the task force and sort of evaluate those ideas that came in are certainly welcome to do that. Obviously, we have open meeting limitations with respect to more than 1 or 2 members on a particular task force. And then as we discussed, we'll bring back to you the projects that we want to fund with these funds based on the work of those task force and the recommendations that they make.
Wouldn't the, once we get the rules by which we have to play by, wouldn't that also prompt maybe other ideas? I mean, that would be narrowed. And my question is, when does the process stop, I guess, with people bringing in ideas or the council bringing in ideas if we don't know what the rules are yet? In other words, is it going to be open for a while?
Oh, yeah. No,
Okay.
I think from my perspective, I think it's open for new ideas as long as we have money available. You know,
Okay.
It's open for ideas, projects, suggestions. So as long as there's money available. Now we've gotten requests that far exceed the 36 million already. You know, and those are some large requests from some entities that you know, probably are in the capital construction kind of projects that, based on my reading of the federal legislation, probably aren't allowed. But as I say, we haven't gotten any of the rules and regulations yet, but we're going to put those in the hopper so that they can be analyzed with the rest of it as those things become available.
One of the things that concerns me, and this will be my last question, has to do with operational costs going forward. We could have a great idea about opening up a $5 million building because it's what this community needs. But we need to weigh that with how are we going to fund the people that operate that going forward. And so there's just, it's a very interesting dynamic.
Well, these are one-time only funds.
Yeah.
So probably we need to look at projects that are sustainable, that won't require ongoing funding from the city year after year, because that won't be available. So.
Got it. Thank you.
Laura, you want to add anything?
I just wanted to add that on the city's website, scrolling down the home page, there is a big red box in the middle called with ARPA, with American Rescue Plan Act. And for individuals that click on that link, it will take them to a copy of the slide deck that the mayor presented to city council, as well as an idea submission form. asking 4 or 5 basic questions. So they're standardized if they're coming in utilizing that form. And there is also the volunteer for a specific working group or task force form. So that becomes standardized as well. Right now in the mayor's office, we're collecting them and putting them in one file. I'm waiting for the intern whose responsibility it will be to staff and manage that email address and collate all the information by by those pillars and then present it to the internal task force, which is meeting on a weekly basis.
Councilor Winter?
So I've been out at the vaccine clinic at the fairgrounds as an RN for several days. And actually, everybody was kind of laughing about the Denver Bronco cheerleaders. I was wondering where they came from, whose idea was it? And I mean, you might as well have strippers out there or something. I mean, I really don't understand where that idea came from.
You know, it came out of, I think, the governor's office and out of Denver. I mean, they said they were available. I didn't really respond to the email, but I think they must have reached out to FEMA or the county directly and made arrangements for them to come down. You know, it's put together pretty quickly, obviously. When I mentioned to my friend that they were going to have the mascot down, he didn't think that would draw anybody, but the cheerleaders might. So
yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyway, I also spoke to some military doctors as well, and they said, and I would like to know if the governor is actually in contact with the military, but they said that nationwide we're probably at herd immunity, but it's not, that information is not being put out there. And I would like to know what's going on with that. And he also felt that there was immunity denial, meaning that folks that actually had COVID do have immunity. So they really don't necessarily need the vaccine. So I would just like some more information on those two issues.
well, I don't know how we could be at herd immunity when our
Well,
hospitalizations for COVID.
this came directly from the military doctors, so I just would like some information on it.
But I mean, we still got people getting sick, getting put in the hospital. So if we have immunity, that
Right?
suggests to me people aren't going to get sick. Is that
No,
what you think about immunity or no?
no, people are always going to get sick. I
For
mean,
COVID?
your herd immunity is not at 100%, Nick. There's, the flu is not at 100%. So, I'm not going to argue about that. I just said that this was a military doctor
That's
at a,
working at the test site?
at a vaccine clinic. Yes.
Okay.
So I would like to know
Whether
what,
we're at herd immunity?
I would like to know if the governor has heard this from the military. If you have a number I can call, I will be more than happy to do that.
Okay.
Do you have a number for me to call or someone I can talk to? Or?
Just the governor's office. I mean, that's the published number is the only one I have, but
Yeah, I'm sure. So that's why I'm asking you to kind of put that out there, or to see if they're speaking with them, where this is coming from.
The public information officer from the governor's office is attending a 3-day-a-week meeting with the local public information officers from the county and the health department, the sheriff's office, the police department, and the city, of which I am attending and representing there. And the governor's public information officer has not indicated at all with respect to herd immunity, still continuing to work on those that are hesitant for the vaccination and working on outreach material that it is safe, and continuing to believe that it will be available to younger
Yeah,
age
I get all that. I
teenagers.
was just
No
asking,
other.
is there anybody you can call to ask about those
Yes, I will
specifically?
reach out to that public information officer from the governor's office. Mickey Strauss is her name.
Okay. Do you have a number that I can
I
I
have her
speak?
email address.
Can you send that to me? Okay, thanks.
Yeah, there's a lot of frustration. I guess there comes a lot of frustration in my eyes on what's the end game. The issue here is that now you have a community that is reluctant to get vaccinated. Our vaccinations, as far as I know, unless you have new information, out of the 3,000 a day vaccinations that are available, they're doing how many? Couple hundred?
well, they did, I think, 1,500 over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday maybe, but on weekdays, they're doing 200 or 300. Yeah. It's,
Yeah. So you understand my frustration is that now we have all of these health orders and health issues in place that are protecting the people who don't want to be protected.
Yeah.
It's like this craziness that's going on right now. So they're never going to get vaccinated. And does that mean that if they never get vaccinated, are we going to sit here for the next 10 years waiting for people to get vaccinated? Is it another 10 months? Is it another 8 months? And I know that we're looking at, as a county and a city, we've kept the dial in place or the numbers in place. And I'm not a doctor. I'm not arguing whether that's a good dial or a bad dial. But are we seriously going to wait till everything's in blue before we open up our economy again? It just, when 50% of the community or 60 or 40% of the community is going to refuse to get vaccinated, that doesn't make sense to me. So we're economically devastating businesses that want to be open completely, and they're looking at this like, when's this going to end?
Yeah. Well, let me just back up. You know, I had a conversation with the governor and the other mayors this morning, 4 or 5 of us on the call, and it's the polling suggests that there's 10 or 15% of the people that are just anti-vaccination. So those people, we're never going to convince them to get vaccinated. They're not going to get vaccinated. But the people, there's a large group of people there that just haven't got around to it yet. They haven't got around to it yet. So they're working on plans to make sure those people get it. You know, I'm getting frustrated as well. And frankly, I'm sort of at let's thin the herd stage. You know, if people that want to get vaccinated, you know, they're going to get sick. Some of them are going to die. And, you know, if that's their choice, they've had every opportunity to get vaccinated. So that probably helps the gene pool.
The majority of them are going to get sick and spend 2 or 3 days at home in bed, and then they're going to go back to work in a week when their COVID's over. I mean, quite frankly, the possibility of death is very, very, very low. That's according to all the science, is all I'm saying. I understand the hospitalizations and all this, and I'm not here advocating to say to go out tomorrow and nobody wears a mask or we don't do anything, but there has to be an end game here to say these people are not. How can you not have time to get vaccinated? The vaccination clinics open every single day, 10 or 11 hours. And nobody, I have friends that drive over there and in literally in 15 minutes, they get vaccinated and they're gone in 20 minutes. And
they haven't been motivated yet. They haven't been motivated yet to get
They
vaccinated.
need strippers to come and motivate them.
well, we'll see how many come tomorrow
so-
when the Bronco cheerleaders. If they fill it up, we're going to have them here every day.
Well, and I have run my idea up the flagpole again about, you know, let's have a drawing. You know, every day we'll draw $1,000 winner for people to get vaccinated. I think people in Pueblo would be motivated by that, but FEMA doesn't like that idea much. So that's on the back burner.
Anyway, I hope that we come up with a better plan than what we
Well,
have.
we're not going to be in this stage very long, I think. You know, by summer, we're going to have open events. You know, it's going to be open. It's pretty open now. It's pretty open now in terms of our economy.
There's
and
another
business.
argument. There's another argument because you can go into stores now and you can go, you got half the people are wearing masks, half the people aren't wearing masks, whether there's a mask order or not. And social distancing, all that stuff, none of that's, so you get to the point where you think we're all adults, we take personal responsibility for our actions. And if I want to wear a mask, I wear a mask. If I don't want to wear a mask, I'm not going to wear a mask. If I want to be vaccinated, I'll get vaccinated. If I don't want to, I won't. But it's just frustrating, you know, after a year and so many months of talking about this, it's very frustrating. So anyway, I've talked about that enough. Councilor Hunter.
So it says here that COVID-19 is looking at 60 to 70% of the population is your threshold for herd immunity. So if you've got 45% vaccinated, you're right at 60%. So that, I mean, that's pretty correct. And also, Mark made the point of immunity denial, where people that have had COVID, they obviously have their own antibodies and they're immune. So there is that going on as well. So most people that catch it will get over it and be healthy and have their own antibodies. So that is kind of immunity denial on the part of the governor.
All right. Let's move on. Second on the agenda. Does anybody have anything else before I move forward? Second on the agenda is Westgate, the Hyde Park Infrastructure Community Development Block Grant. This is good news, I'm sure. Mr. Bay, Mr. Martin. It is fantastic to see you guys again so soon.
We appreciate it. Hopefully you're off. On. It's on? Okay, now it's on. What I wanted to do is just provide you an update from the last time we had an opportunity to share our overall slide. I really don't want to take the time to go through the whole thing. We actually gave you another packet, but I wanted to give you a couple of things that we did do since we've been here last couple of weeks ago. We did have our town hall. We had roughly about 24 people online or on site and about another 20 people that were online. We actually live streamed it. We're actually putting it on YouTube as well. But the biggest thing I wanted to provide you is really an update on what we had in costing and pricing. And in this little sample we gave you here, because we'd actually also submitted a copy of this to Mayor Gradishar for consideration within the American Recovery Funds as well. You know, having read through quite a bit as, you know, what's going on with that, it's really hard to determine. I know even like with us at the school, they keep changing the rules all the time of what they want us to fund, not fund. And so we're really trying to dive into that as well. But one of the things I wanted to provide you is an update as far as where our cost was. And this little sheet right here has a complete overview. So really the total project totally funded is about $7.2 million. But you take out really what the builder, the net request that we would have is $4.4 million. And those are in current dollars as of today. What we did is I spoke with Director Hayes at Planning and Zoning, but then also had a general contractor, Kara Swartzberger, actually give us some pricing as well, which is pricing as of today. And it really didn't change all that much from what we originally planned. We thought it was going to be about $3.7 million, but it ends up being about $4.4 million. But we've requested that the builder, when you can see the percentages, the builder and anybody that actually builds in there will actually contribute about 40% of the total funds. Because remember, what we stated in there is that the sidewalks would actually come, you know, we could put the sidewalk in, but it'll be refunded through another grant that we were able to get with CDOT, and we're actually going to renew that this summer. Is also some additional, the water laterals and sewer laterals will also be contributed as well. As they start building the houses, those monies will come back to the city. And then when you really look at the total net cost in with the return on investment still is quite good. We were originally at 1.8 years. It's really now just a little shade under, I rounded it to 3 years, payback rate in 3 years, but being in the financial world where, you know, I've spent an awful lot of my time as a land developer and a builder, you know, if I could recover my money in 3 years, I'd do that project right away. So we appreciate it. I'll open up if you have any questions. We do think this is a tremendous project for the west side because it gives the ability to, as we know, you know, the 24th Street access is going to be going on with the county, and this really just opens up that entire area for not only two things. One is to safety and security, and that's where our main concern is at the school, is safety and security of our kids walking to and from school. Because we do have a lot. It's amazing to me that we have a number of kids that actually get taken by their either their siblings, their parents, their guardians, their grandparents to school. But we still have a fair number of kids that are walking to school. I know the apartment complex that's up by the YMCA. We have a few kids that walk there. We also have a bunch of them that are walking from the Westgate area as well. And so we talked to the developer. We have one on hand. Bruce Martin is with Lifestyle Development, and then Chris Markey, and hopefully they're online because I sent them the link today so they can actually kind of, you know, see what was going on. But they're willing to, you know, contribute to the project. And just like I stated before, they really believe what this is a shot in the economy for the entire west side. But with that, I'll open up if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bay. Questions, Councilor Flores?
Yeah, as you know, this money is going to come directly from the federal government to the city. It's also come directly to the county. And as I understand, our school district, both 60 and 70, are going to get direct funds. Now, does that translate into your charter being able to access funding through those channels?
We cannot access it for that because of what we're being restricted to within, we have rules where up to 20% of ours has to be for, what my understanding is, and we've had a number of webinars as well, but we have to, 20% of ours has to be spent directly on the improvement of education of getting kids back to where they were before COVID hit. And then what we're doing is one of the things that really thrust us into, as you're well aware of, is the one-to-one initiative where prior to COVID, we probably had, I would say maybe 200, 300 computers on site, where now we have over 1,100 computers. And so our infrastructure has totally changed. What we're anticipating is two things: is because of the style of delivery of education, now having to do it not only in a blended way, where you're doing it online, if kids are going to be sick, whether it's COVID or not, we want to be able to provide them an opportunity to learn. So we've figured out a way, and what we have to do is we have to put in a plan through District 60 and ultimately to the state of what we want to do with that. We're trying to get direction, Mr. Flores, right now on ESSER 3, which is the American Recovery Funds, and you have yet to really get a full detail of what we know that 20% of it has to be spent on education, improvement of education, but we're not sure on the rest of it. There are certain things that we can recover if it's COVID related. And like with what we're doing right now with our softball complex and baseball complex, because, instead of us intermingling our kids down at Runyon Field, we're able to create our own softball field. So we're in the process of trying to do some of those capital expenditures. But something of this nature, we're not able to tap funds for that. I mean, we would be very interested in seeing if the county would be interested in doing it as well. Because we believe it's a tremendous opportunity for, the city of Pueblo. And I appreciate Mayor Greshaw going what he did last week with all of this stuff. And I had an opportunity to actually submit to him online. We're just really hoping that we get an opportunity for consideration to really let the West Side, be reborn again.
The 18th Street extension, we've been working on for a long time. And again, we don't have the rules either.
Yes.
We're waiting for them. And tonight we found out that maybe we won't get them till the end of May. Yeah. But the additional law they're trying to pass right now also will deal with infrastructure.
Yes, correct.
So it's still kind of nebulous as to what, where we're going to land up. And there's still the possibility that we could get the 18th, the 18th Street extension covered by the new law, not this one.
Yep.
And I noticed that that's part of your presentation tonight.
Yeah.
I like what you presented, and you did a very good job on it. But again, it's I guess my last question had to do with if you're being backfilled for a lot of the additional expenses that you incurred as a result of COVID, wouldn't that loosen up some of the money to do some of these projects?
Yeah, it does, but then we're still limited as far as what we can do. We're in the process right now, as you know, we're building a brand new school. We're building a brand new, what we call a transitional thing. We're hoping that we get the best grant. We have roughly about another almost $3 million that we would have to contribute to, the best grant, because it's a matching portion. So we've set aside roughly about $3 million right now, $3.3 million in anticipation of us getting the best grant, which really would be for us roughly about a $35 million investment. So represents about 10% of that. So we're trying to earmark that same thing. As you know, Mr. Flores, our biggest issue on this is trying to ensure that, we continue to market and let the West Side grow, because we're making a tremendous investment in the West Side as far as providing all of our students an adequate, not adequate, I would call it a 21st century opportunity to learn. And that's what this is going to do for our folks. We've lived in a modular complex for the last 20 some years. The school actually this year is officially the 20th year of our celebration, and they've been in modulars ever since. And so, we're hoping that we can get the best grant and try to do every dollar we can that we save, we're trying to put it in somewhere else. And so, we've looked at every other avenue we can, and we're willing to continue to look at avenues as well. And what we're trying to do is, as we got an individual called us, I think it was Rudy Martinez actually may have started this whole thing and called us the Westgate Guardians. Well, I called him the mayor of the West Side because he's really the one that's prompted us. And so we're going to continue to, march down every avenue that we can. I'm fortunate, being a former developer and builder, I understand that they're payback and return. And right now we have a window of opportunity where we may not have in a few years, is because of where real estate is right now in Pueblo. They can basically, sell everything they can build right now. And so that's one of the reasons why we're trying to do is to keep it to a price where, it can be somebody getting grabbed that opportunity that would have had to stay in a rental situation that could also get into a situation where they own their own home.
Thank you, Jeff.
You bet.
Counselor Schilling.
Jack, thank you, and all the brain damage that you're going through. This is a really unique situation here because usually developers build a neighborhood and then the school comes in. And in this case, the school's building a neighborhood. And you really are all the energy behind getting all these streets and all these other things done and bringing in the developers and that sort of thing. So you're approaching it at 180 degrees from the way things usually go. And everybody around here needs to know we're not paying a dime for all his brain drain and activity and to do all the work he's done and coordinated. Jack's a CPA, so God love you. You love tedious tax and tasks.
True.
So it's remarkable that you're doing this. So I hope we can help you in all the ways that we can. The West Side has always been a real independent community. When some of the council people would complain the best of their sidewalks are cracked and the ones over on the east side are cracked, and all we'd like is a sidewalk on the west side.
Just a sidewalk.
And the same thing with grocery stores. They haven't had a grocery store there for years, but those people are real independent over there. And it makes me real proud. And I think that West Side's going to grow. Whatever we can do to make that happen, this roadways are certainly a big thing. But to have a school start a neighborhood is, in my mind, a very unique thing.
Appreciate
your
that.
efforts.
I would
Thanks,
agree
Dr. Duran, also.
Yes, and a lot of this is attributed to Dr. Duran. He's allowed me to use some of the talents and traits that I have, to be able to benefit our community in a major way. But we are looking at it from the standpoint we want to do what's best for our kids on the west side, and we truly believe that this is not only going to grow from the west side because our population that we grow from Chavez Huerta really is within the entire city of Pueblo. We have a fair number of our students who are actually from the west side. We also get them from the south side, from Pueblo West. This year, for the very first time, we were actually we typically lose a fair number of our students that come from 8th grade into 9th grade simply because of tradition, because of the bell game, or they want to be an Eagle or something like that. But this last year, and usually that's about 22%. This last year was only about 9%. We actually we'll have the largest. We had the largest freshman class in the history of Chavez Huerta with 95. This year we'll actually come in with probably about 109. And so it's phenomenal what's happening up there. And I've been, being a developer and a builder as long as I have, you like you said, you actually do it. Traditionally you just go in and build it and they will come. Well, we're doing the opposite. We're building this school and the infrastructure. And really, what's driving a lot of it for us is trying to make sure that we provide opportunities for our students. And as they continue to grow, one of the things that we're doing this year is we're actually bringing in personal finance. We're going to teach personal finance this summer because we feel it's extremely important. So we're trying to look at, how can we be the old community asset, being that we're a school. We really think that we're an asset of the community, and we're trying to reach out and help. And so I've been afforded the opportunity to reach out and help, the West Side community. To me, it's a labor of love.
Jack, another way to look at that is you're a business and you're making sure that you have customers
That's very true.
by building the neighborhood. Thanks for what you're doing. Thank Dr. Brown, truly. Because without him allowing you to do this, this wouldn't be going anywhere.
That's true.
Counselor Tencio.
Have you considered an improvement district for the?
Yes, we talked about that. I'm very fortunate. I've done districts in the past, and I've had a little bit of conversation with Jerry Pacheco because Jerry's very familiar with as well, being he's a former engineer. Like I said, Mr. Tencio, we really look at any opportunity we can to continue to grow.
Yeah, I believe in. I wanted to do an improvement district for the east side, but there was no property values.
Yeah, and that's what's up with it. I was in a situation up in Falcon where we had the same problem.
Yeah, but I mean, since you're building, there's a lot of home building going to be going on out there. That's just an idea that.
Yeah, and we'll look at it. I think
might help out a lot.
The one restriction of that is going to say, like you said, is having some commercial there as well.
Yeah.
Because of the mix of property taxes, and it's beginning to come. And really, the only thing we have there right now is the dollar store. But I understand, there's speculation on some of the properties that other people are beginning to look at from the west side. So hopefully we can we'll pull this number off.
So how much money do you need?
Well, what we're requesting is really, and we're not really requesting the money that we get the money and just keep the money. I mean, what we're requesting is really
Yeah, but how much?
a $4.4 million infusion, of which within that very first year, you'll recover $1.4 million. Within 3 years, it's basically totally paid off. And then the city will actually generate about $1.5 million for perpetuity.
Well, you know, and I don't know that I said this last time, but for anybody that would ever listen to me, I've been saying over and over and over again that the city needs to make investments in infrastructure in order to create development. If we're going to have any kind of economic renaissance in the city of Pueblo, it starts with residential development. And without residential development, you have no commercial development, you have zero growth. So you look at Pueblo over the last 50 years, has actually grown from 98,000 people to 105,000 people or 106,000 people, while every other community in Colorado up and down the Front Range has just skyrocketed. And that's because those communities made investments in infrastructure to ensure that these developments get built. And so it's almost a no-brainer, if you ask me, to invest $4 million in the infrastructure in this development that's going to bring you back $1.5 to $3 million in revenue every single year forever. It's like the greatest investment that we can make, not to mention what it does for our economy. You know, I saw on the news this morning, they were doing a report and they said Denver had 35,000 units available in Denver, but the prices of those units in Denver started at like $500,000 for a 1-bedroom condo somewhere. And here we're at a time in America where people are working from home. They're looking for communities that it's not brain damage to live in. You don't have to fight traffic. They have great amenities like libraries and art centers and river walks. And I was talking to somebody this morning. I said, now, if that person who's looking in Denver yesterday decided, you know, I need to go look at Pueblo, they'd come down and they'd look at Pueblo and they'd find out, well, it's cheaper to live here, but we don't have anywhere for you to live. So they end up not coming to Pueblo. So we have to take advantage of these types of things. I've had several conversations with Mayor Gradazar. He can comment on that, where I said that we need to take our dollars invested in this infrastructure, not only on this project, but on several projects throughout the city, where we have over 7,000 lots available to be developed for people to start building homes on. And, you know, I don't know how you do it. I don't know where we would find the money or whether it's through this program, because it's my understanding through this money that it's specifically designated for infrastructure like sewers and things like that, is kind of what I read into it. I could be all wrong. But for the city to turn something to not make this a priority would be one of the great mistakes we've made in the last 20 years, because this is a good project and it needs to be built. So I'm telling you, just like I told you last time, that if that money's available, I can't imagine a council person here that wouldn't fight hard to make sure that we got something done here to make this happen. So
we appreciate that.
I'm with you, man.
Yeah, I'm like you, Vice President Olive. One of the things that I've noticed, and this is the first time I've been at the Chavez Huerta, this is going into my 4th year now. And prior to that, I actually traveled along I-25 for the better part of 29 years, going both ways. And you know, one of the things that I've really become real evident now, it used to be I could get to Springs and didn't have really a problem until I got up to, I was in, Surrey Ridge. As you go down before you get into Denver, and that was really the first problem. Well, that's no longer. Now it's actually, I get to mile marker 130. Well, 135 is where the base is now, and all of them are coming out of the base, depending on what time that is. And then you got to fight your way through the middle of downtown Colorado Springs, and you got to fight your way all the way through, Douglas County. But it's been interesting in talking to a lot of the folks and really find out really what's causing all of this. Well, We know that Amazon, what's going on with there, a lot of people are in Colorado Springs are beginning to say the same thing. When I look at the price of, and I have a daughter that's really was looking at coming back to Colorado Springs. She lives in Nashville right now and just finished her college degree, and now she's in a master's program. And she was looking at it too, and she says, really, when you look at the price of what I could buy there versus what I could buy here, you know, it's tremendous. But I think there's an opportunity that exists for Pueblo today that did not exist when I started building homes back in, you know, clear back in, I don't remember when I started originally building them. But when I looked at really the dynamics of what's happening today, to be able to sell a house, to have Richmond, America come into our community and sell houses at $294,000, which is a 1,400 square foot house. I mean, that is phenomenal to me. I just cannot fathom it. But I've also wanted to look at it from a standpoint and looking at a city. The city is nothing more than really a business of, that I would have had when I was running. You know, you need customers to create that revenue dollars. But once you get the tax dollars built up and you get a certain impetus, and I think the impetus is being provided now up north, because if you've driven as far as go up to Longmont in that area, that's you know, a lot of the land has been already purchased. It's already being built out. And I know one fact that we have here is we have water. We always have. I was fortunate. I worked in the water department at CFNI, and I began to understand, you know, what St. Charles and all the river, Arkansas, and all the fountain rivers come together in a confluence of what here. And we have water. And in order to build houses, if you don't have the water, now, if you want to build up north, you better come with a ton of money for the water because you got to buy it from the farmers. And the farmers are very reluctant now to sell their land. And so down here, since we happen to have a lot of it, we have a golden opportunity. But like I said, the weakness is, and me being a former builder and developer, I talk to the folks all the time, and I'll ask them, well, why don't you guys come down? Now, Richmond's coming down because they believe it's an opportunity for them. So I think that's the window of opportunity that we have. And it's just like with the folks at Pueblo Development, Chris Markey, led by, you know, they're really anxious to get started. One of the things we're trying to do, Mr. Flores, is make sure we get 18th Street, which is thankful. I've had an opportunity to visit with Andy Hayes a little bit, and we're moving that forward. I know tonight you're finalizing, hopefully the finalizing of the funds for 18th Street to be able to move forward. And then once we get that done, you know, we're hoping that we can then begin to get the rest of it in a very dynamic way over there, because biggest problem that I have with it is really access to the west side. And those of us that have traveled the west side, it's extremely hard to get to. And so if we can provide access in and out of the community, I think it's just going to explode. But thank you.
Councilor Schilling?
Just one last thing, Jack, the big boogeyman in this is commodity prices. And how on earth are you going to guesstimate?
Yeah, one of the
And
things, Bob, it's very interesting right now, and you can see. I mean, we see it in just like a price of a 2x4. We're building some dugouts, and you know, went down and bought a sheet of 4x8 OSB. When I used to pay, you know, $12 for it, now I'm paying $58 a sheet. But the interesting thing with Monami that actually owns Public Development, they're a huge company, a huge organization, so they have the ability to actually be able to purchase a lot of stuff in advance. And they've actually, you know, because they build across the United States, they've actually been able to stockpile quite a bit. I mean, their plan is really to build 100 homes a year. And they're ready to go. They're anxious. They've really done some of the stuff as far, especially the major commodities being wood. They've already prepaid a lot of it. And they did this really roughly about a year ago. We were able to buy some of the commodities for it.
So you tell me they got enough for 100 homes?
Yes, sir.
Yahoo!
It was like toilet paper, Bob, and during COVID, they got lots of wood.
But I want to thank you for the opportunity to allow us to be able to share that with you today and bring back some new information.
Well, Jack, you know, I'm telling you, I'm on this wagon. Get this done. Mayor?
Well, a couple observations. Number one, obviously, we're doing 18th Street because that does provide access to the neighborhood. And that's different than what we're talking about in this project, I think, which is putting in the roads and sidewalks for a developer. Obviously, whether we get that back in 3 years depends upon whether the developer is successful. If we could get it back in 3 years, so could the developer, if they sell all those lots there and build houses on those lots. So I'd be surprised if any of the cities up north were making those kind of infrastructure investments in developments, where they're putting in sidewalks and streets.
I can, Mayor Gradishar, they are.
Who's doing that?
I'm a builder developer. You can go up to anywhere in Windsor, as far as Frank, or what's the other ones up there, Bruce? Way up north? Meade. A lot of them are putting in the infrastructure because they realize that, you know, where they've got to grow is they, you know, two things. One is and I shared this with you before the last time I was here, the cost of developing a lot in Pueblo, Colorado is roughly about $10,000 to $12,000 in a difference higher than it is in Colorado Springs. And a lot of it is because people aren't willing to drive to Pueblo. I mean, they understand it, the dynamics of I could do it, but they don't want to come. When 2009 hit and I quit building houses, and I looked at going back into the housing market when I came back to Colorado after doing some stuff in 2013, and it just wasn't there because their trades aren't there. And so, this is a very unique opportunity. Pueblo, if we all realize, Pueblo didn't have this opportunity 2 years ago because the price of real estate, we're at a real estate market right now that really, I don't know how long the window is going to be there. Could it be there 3 years, 4 years, 5 years? And so, but there are an awful lot of communities, not only in Colorado, but also other states that are basically, because they understand their return on investment, they're gonna put the money up front.
Well, those might be metro districts that are doing that.
No, they're not even metro districts. These are people.
City municipalities are doing that.
These are actually cities taking their dollars and actually doing the same
All
thing.
right, we'll work on that. But the other thing I want to let you know, and Jack, this might be important. I don't know whether these ARPA monies can be used for this, but we got a letter from Housing and Urban Development last week when I was gone that we're going to get an additional $4 million in CBDG money that can be used for certain things. And it might be able, I know one of the things you were talking about is making these homes affordable.
Yes.
So obviously, if we use some of that money on there, they'd probably want some covenants put on the homes or the land so that they were in fact affordable. However, the feds define.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, Mayor Gresham. One of the things that we've done, we've actually brought in a program that I was able to do up in Brighton, which was a rent-to-own product, which is a HUD program they use in other communities throughout the United States. And so that's one of the things we recognize right away is the reason we're here asking, and we would love to consider, because I happen to hear the same thing on the HUD because I get the information from HUD all the time. And I saw that and I thought, well, this would be a unique opportunity for us to be able to do that. So
I've asked Brian Gallagher to schedule a meeting with me so we can sort of flesh that out and see that might be a possible source of funds for some of this infrastructure if the project qualifies in terms of these are actually going to be affordable housing that keep people, that get people out of rentals and into homes or keep them from losing homes or those kind of things. There's some qualifications there for homeless people. If it gets them into houses and that kind of stuff, it can be used for those kind of money. So we'll try to flesh that out and keep council advised.
But I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. And I would urge the administration and city council and everybody involved is that just because it hasn't been done or that somebody doesn't do it that way, we need to look at everything we can possibly do to make projects like this happen. We need to think outside the box, or what's going to happen is that 20 years from now, there's going to be a city council sitting up here and the population is going to be 112,000 people. And they're going to be wondering, how come Pueblo hasn't grown over the last 50 years? Well, it will be because we had councils and administrations and so on and so forth that just refused to invest and think outside the box and support this kind of foundational economic development that's so critical to our success. So good luck to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll go on to number 3. I was overwhelmed there, so I got lost. Number 3 on the agenda, Comcast overview. And we have Nicholas from Government Affairs. Are you here? Is that you?
Yes, sir.
Hey, great to see you.
Assuming I can take my mask off.
Absolutely.
All right. A little hard to hear with these on. Appreciate you all having me here tonight. Thank you, Mayor Gradisar and staff and council. Mayor Gradisar, I know it's been a while, but good to see you again, sir. By the way, I love the presentation focused on schools. I'm here to talk about Comcast, but if I can get off topic in the first sentence that I spit out here, I serve as board vice president for Goal Academy High School based here in Pueblo. So always appreciate the discussion on education. And I think when we talk a little bit about what Comcast has done in the recent past, we'll see a tie into education, the importance of online connectivity and what we've been able to do to support continued access. And Councilman Flores, I know you know a little bit about that. Appreciate your work with the Poverty Foundation to support those efforts as well. So I have a presentation that I hope can be pulled up. All right. And of course, when we think about Comcast, any presentation that I share has to include a video. So I started off here with a video that shows a family that benefited from Internet Essentials. And some of you may know about that. Internet Essentials offers low-cost internet to low-income households. And this family is actually from Colorado Springs, but it's a great story, and I'll let the video tell that story. It's a short one, 30 seconds.
I joined the Navy as soon as I graduated high school. It was right after 9/11. And I went on to become a jet engine mechanic. I was on the USS John C. Stennis for 4 years. I've started to have more health issues, so working has been hard.
School was canceled for the kids, and we were sitting here, we're like, we don't have internet.
Internet Essentials gave us 2 months free internet, and then it was $10 a month after that. It's really inexpensive, and it's helped so much. I was able to have mental health appointments with my doctors. It honestly really did save my life. Internet Essentials is taking us one more step closer to our goal. If one other person can get this help, that's one more life that maybe can be better and feel better.
Seen that video a few times. It gets me every time. I was actually in the Walker family's apartment while we were filming that video. Noelle baked us fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. Man, she's special. And that family, what the video doesn't show is just a few months before we filmed that video, which was maybe 10 months ago, they were living in the woods. They had that first COVID stimulus check, and thanks to their partnership with Mount Carmel, we're able to get into that apartment. And thanks to the school, D11 school that Connor attended, he got a laptop. The Mount Carmel folks told them about Internet Essentials. Combined with the kids' laptop, Noelle was able to get her mental health sessions virtually when everything shut down. So I love the story that tells about the synergy between schools, nonprofits, and of course the small role that Comcast can play to support. This slide is very different from that, but I'd like to introduce myself and introduce Comcast by talking about the scope of this company. Comcast, I've been here for 14 years and I started as an intern. So Mayor Gradisar, when you're hiring an intern, that's how I started with Comcast. And I love the fact that you all are giving folks an opportunity to build careers and get experience here. It helped me a lot. Comcast 14 years ago was a very different company. In the 14 years since, we've grown. You can see all those icons on the screen. We've got the corporate brand of Comcast. We've got the residential brand that you all are familiar with of Xfinity. Comcast Business providing our products to small and medium-sized businesses. NBC Universal on the cable television and entertainment and movie side. Sky, you may not have heard of, but we acquired Sky a few years ago. They are a UK video and internet company, and a whole lot of other great brands that are in there as well. That's all part of the Comcast family. If we can go to the next slide. When we think about Xfinity, I've got here just a quick representation of the products and services we offer. You all are familiar with our internet, our video product. You know, one of the things that I want to call out is our internet product, even if you don't buy video, includes a Xfinity Stream box, which allows our customers, internet-only customers, for free to be able to access thousands of hours of video content, to be able to plug in their subscriptions to apps like Hulu and Netflix and Prime Video and Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, and watch all of those with the convenience of the voice remote that we offer, which I think everybody loves, but we don't all realize how important can be for folks that maybe have arthritis or can't see very well or have other disabilities. Being able to just press a button and speak into the remote makes it a lot easier for folks to have a great entertainment experience. And when you think about our internet, it includes XFi, which is an advanced internet monitoring and security tool that allows parents, I have 3 kids, to set timers. My kids know, it's 7:30 for the younger kids and at 8 o'clock for my oldest, that his internet shuts off, that it's time to go to bed on school nights, right? That automatically protects them from adult content and viruses and other things that we don't want them to experience when they're on the internet. But it also protects every device. Now, when we think about the Internet of Things and having smart doorbells and smart toasters and dishwashers and all of that crazy stuff, there are some risks in being connected to the internet, but the X-Fi product protects your whole network. So it's router level home internet security, which we're really proud of. I don't want to harp on this too much, but if you all don't know about Xfinity Mobile, a wonderful product that is essentially included with your home internet. We operate on the country's best 5G network. 5G is included with the service, and unlimited plans can be as low as $30 a month if you have 4 devices. So we'll go to the next slide and talk a little bit about Comcast as an economic development partner and as a job engine. We've got about 9,000 employees across the state of Colorado, which is second only to Pennsylvania, Comcast headquarters. We paid, you can see there, almost $200 million in taxes and fees, direct taxes and fees to Colorado towns, cities, and counties. $3.3 billion invested in our technology and our infrastructure since 2011. That allows us to double our network capacity about every 18 to 24 months. And in 2019 alone, it's $1.5 billion that we invested in capital expenditures and wages and benefits, in taxes and fees, and of course in charitable giving. So really proud of those numbers. We want to be an economic development partner to cities and counties that we serve. And as we think about the cities and counties that we serve, on the next slide, I show a little bit about how we invest, and I have some specifics I can talk about for Pueblo as well. We work in Pueblo with great nonprofits, with United Way, Boys and Girls Clubs, with YMCA, with all of the local school districts. We're proud members of the Pueblo Chamber, the Latino Chamber, PEDCO. I personally serve on 2 of the One Pueblo committees, the community positioning and target industry development teams. Like I said, I'm board vice president for Goal High School, which is based here in Pueblo, but really has a reach throughout the entire state as the largest alternative education charter school in the state. In terms of the nonprofits that we've served in Colorado alone over the last 3 years, that's 266 unique nonprofit organizations. Over 50,000 Wi-Fi hotspots that we offer throughout the state of Colorado. And during COVID, we opened up all of those Wi-Fi hotspots, all those public Wi-Fi hotspots, so that everybody, whether you're a Comcast customer or not, could access the internet in those locations. And the Internet Essentials program, which candidly I'm completely biased, it changed my life. I volunteered when I was living in Philadelphia, working for Comcast, to go out to schools and speak to families about this program. I eventually got offered a job working on the program full time. 3 years ago, I left that job to move here to Colorado. I still get an opportunity to talk about Internet Essentials, and I'm very passionate about it. In the city of Pueblo alone, nearly 30,000 individuals have been connected to the internet through Internet Essentials. And when we look at the research on that, the vast majority of folks that have connected to Internet Essentials have a home internet connection for the first time in their lives. They may have experienced the internet, but they didn't have it at home. And so this program, and I think actually I'll get into it a little bit more. Let me see if there's anything I missed on this, but this slide has some great data. I'm not going to read off of it. I'm going to go through the next programs on individual slides, and we can certainly talk more. This slide is a representation of our RISE program, which is a fairly new initiative for us. Last year, this country started a conversation or really ramped up a conversation around social justice. Comcast saw an opportunity to be involved in this conversation, to lend some support. We made a multi-year commitment of $100 million to support social justice around the country. But it's not just handing out checks. It's about leveraging our expertise and our assets. So we created Comcast Rise to support small businesses. So Comcast Rise is a program offered to BIPOC owned small businesses. You all probably know what that means, but it was new to me. So I'll say it's Black, Indigenous, and people of color owned small businesses that are eligible to apply for support through this program. And if you receive the support, you can fall into one of two categories. You can get Comcast Business to do a technology makeover, maybe even a website makeover to help you reach more customers and bring them into your small business. The second side of it is Effective, what used to be known as Comcast Spotlight, our cable TV advertising firm. You'll recognize the office. It's over on 6th Street, if I'm not mistaken, is offering video production and airtime so that small businesses can reach the community and let them know about the great products and services they offer. And I do have at least one example here in Pueblo. We're in the process of announcing more winners on a rolling basis. But I know that Collaborative Educational Support Services, LLC, run by Dr. Margaret B. Wright, is a recipient of this RISE program, and she provides, her company provides counseling and educational supportive services to children and adults. So excited about the ability to support this type of an organization. And on the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about Internet Essentials. It's a three-legged stool. It's a three-part program that addresses the main barriers to broadband adoption. So it's low-cost monthly internet. This program has been around for 10 years. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary of it. We're not new to the game on this one, but what we haven't done in 10 years is raise the price. So it's still $9.95 a month, no contract, no credit check, no cost for standard installations. You can apply even if you don't have a social security number. Basically, you can qualify for this if you get any form of federal or state benefits, right? So if you get SNAP or WIC or HUD housing assistance or a VA pension, but you don't have internet in the home, $9.95 a month. It comes with the wireless included. And it's a really wonderful program. As you can see, the 10 million plus is since the program launched, and we've invested a lot in the other two components of it, digital literacy training and affordable computers. So we actually subsidize the computer equipment. We put out free digital literacy training because it's not just about having a connection, but it's also about having the equipment to use it and the knowledge to use it. And like I said, we work with a lot of nonprofits with the school districts, but if there's ever an opportunity to spread the word further about this initiative, I'm available, and I have some brochures with me. If you all want to take some, I can leave those behind. One thing that's not captured on this slide but is worth talking about is our Lift Zones initiative. Internet Essentials is internet in the home, and that's wonderful. We think that's the most important, most valuable tool we can provide. But not everybody has a reliable home. Not everybody has a home. Not everybody has a safe, quiet space in the home where they can study or access resources or work. And so we're partnering with community organizations to install Lift Zones, which are public Wi-Fi hotspots available at no cost to the public, available at no cost to the organizations that host these Lift Zones. And in Pueblo, we have two that we're working on with Boys and Girls Clubs. We have the Pueblo YMCA, and we have Rocky Mountain SER sites also in development. So we'll be sharing some more about that. I just sent Mayor Gradisar an email earlier today asking for help. In the next few weeks, we'll be issuing some press releases and talking more about this initiative now that these facilities are up and running and in later stages for the ones that are still being built. So thank you for that as well. So on the next slide, I'll kind of shift from community impact and talk a little bit more about our network investment. As you all can imagine, we've invested a significant amount in our network over the years, 15 billion, which is, I can't even imagine that number, since 2017 alone. But really the story that I wanted to tell is one of continued innovation for Comcast. We double our network capacity every 18 to 24 months as we stay ahead of consumer demands for internet. We continue to innovate in the delivery of our network, bringing fiber closer to homes and ensuring that we offer the products that meet our consumers' needs. So as we continue to innovate, we face unique challenges. The last year has been particularly unique. We went from an environment where internet usage was driven out of city centers, out of suburban office parks, out of these big buildings where folks like me would show up and go work 9 to 5. But when we all shifted to remote work, remote learning, all of that internet demand moved into the suburbs, moved into homes where maybe there's 2 parents and 3 kids, but during the day there was nobody home. And now all of a sudden you've got 3 kids, all of them on Zoom. That's my house anyway. And me working in the dining room, or trying to work in the dining room. So we had to adapt to all of that unique network usage. Our backbone, our infrastructure can handle that no problem. Peak internet increased, but didn't increase a ton. What happened instead was it all moved out into these communities, into these neighborhoods. And so we had to be very responsive and go out and ensure that we had network reliability at that neighborhood level. And I think one of the shining moments for this country, we talk a lot about the need to invest in infrastructure. Our infrastructure is collapsing and crumbling, and you'll see these headlines, not our broadband infrastructure. Our broadband infrastructure held up. Our folks were able to work and learn remotely thanks to the innovation from Comcast and companies like ours, and something I'm really proud of. I don't know that I read what was on the slide, but that was the message that I wanted to share with regards to that. The next slide has a little bit more of the same, has some numbers though that talk about what the increase in network traffic was during COVID. So 32% was that peak internet traffic rise. When you talk about at the neighborhood level, I mean, 1,000%, right? I mean, specific neighborhoods saw usage that was just incomparable to anything we had seen before. Let's keep this moving right along and go to the next slide. And I think you guys will have this presentation once I'm done if you want to revisit any of it. And of course, I'm always available for questions. I'll end with talking about what the future of Comcast network is, and it's 10G, not 5G like the mobile networks, but 10G like 10 gigabit per second symmetrical internet speeds over our existing hybrid fiber coax network. What that means is we go from today offering 1 gig per second, 35 meg per second upload speeds to 10 gig per second symmetrical speeds without digging up neighborhoods, without digging up city streets, without the disruptions to daily life that are associated with this type of advancement in network. This has been tested already. I put an arrow on it there because it's tiny, you can barely see it. But just a couple weeks ago, April 22nd was the news coverage of it, was a successful test of 4 gigabit per second symmetrical connections. And that test was actually between Denver and Philadelphia, our 2 kind of biggest offices for innovation. 4 gigs per second is already possible. 6 gigs per second symmetrical is next down the road on the way to 10 gig per second symmetrical speed. So just want to make sure that that's, in terms of the amount of data that represents, it's essentially unimaginable, right? We're talking about 4K 3-hour movies downloading in seconds. The current demands on internet don't get anywhere near the speeds that this can offer, and Comcast is innovating in this way, and this is service that's going to be available sooner rather than later. So I wanted to close my portion with that, our story of community investment, of innovation, of being a partner on economic development, and of course want to answer any questions you all might have if time allows.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Questions? Councilor Schilling.
Thanks for the presentation. Can you leave me something where Posada is another nonprofit? You talk about the Boys and Girls Club in this lift zone. Can you leave me something where I can pass it on to them?
Absolutely. I'll leave you. I don't have I do have a digital version of the lift zone fact sheet. So what I'll do is I'll leave you a business card if that's okay, and let's communicate. I'll send the fact sheet and follow up with the nonprofit. For the record, we are looking for more. I'm going to give them your business card and have them call you so I stay out of it. Yeah, that sounds great. And we are open and looking for more lift zone partners. So certainly happy to. And say they call you, and how long does it take to do it? I mean, is it just like a push of a button? It's tricky. It depends on if they already have Comcast service in the building, it can be a lot faster. If we have to construct, it can take a few months. Okay. If you'd leave me the card, I'd appreciate it. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Councilor Tencio.
Yeah, we met by Zoom the other day. And the thing that I got out of our meeting was that the internet essentials and the lift zones, hotspots, anybody in the room, and we might put out the message that you are looking for partners to do the internet essentials and the lift zones. So that way they, a lot of people could get connected. So anybody in the room know, like Bob?
Do the schools know?
Any other, huh?
Yes, sir. Yeah, the schools do know, and I'll give a quick shout out to
Tell the
Dalton
students.
Sprouse at D60, who's been a good
Well,
partner in
we
increasing
talked about
awareness.
libraries. We
Sorry,
talked
I
about
interrupted
other groups within the city.
We can fill you
Counselor,
up.
Counselor Flores.
Thank you for the presentation. I learned a lot. As you know, as a public service, you provide cable channels for the government. You provide a cable channel for the county and I think the school districts. And we're limited as to what we can do on there just because we have a contract with PCC and they do an amazing job for what we pay them to do to televise our city council meetings and our work sessions every other week. The question is, there's a lot of black time on those channels, and it just appears that Comcast somewhere has a library of things that we could utilize, educational things for kids, or just general information about government, et cetera. And do you have anything like that?
It's an interesting question, Councilman. I don't have a great answer for you. The only thing that comes to mind, I'm not sure if the city of Pueblo is a member of the Colorado Communications and Utilities Alliance, the CCUA, but I know there's some folks, I participate as an industry representative on their monthly meetings. There's some folks in the CCUA that do routinely share content like what you're saying between the different member cities. In terms of the PEG channel, right, the public educational and governmental channels, we provide those channels as a public service, but the content that lives on those is generated locally.
Maybe, yeah, and then maybe you could send me the information on the council that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I really appreciate the fact that you're invested in the economic development of the community. I was wondering if you had 4 million we could use for Westgate? No.
We've got quite a few construction projects going on, and I always joke that our construction team has the biggest budget in the room, but they definitely have some priorities to spend it on right now.
Okay, thank you. Hey, thank you for the report and everything you do in the community. We appreciate
My
it.
pleasure.
All right, next up is the Summer Reading Challenge. Mr. John Walker and Miss Laura Solano. Mr. Walker, it's great to see you. Thank you for coming. Ms. Solano, it's great to see you.
Thank you. Good evening, City Council. My name is John Walker, and it is a privilege for me to be here and to address you tonight. I do serve as the Executive Director for the Library District, and that's a privilege for me as well. So we do have some library supporters here. This is Mr. Quintana, who is the President of the Board of Trustees, and there's some others in the audience. Sherry is our Associate Executive Director, and others as well. I do want to point out Terry Bachman, who's our banking partner, and I'll come back and reference that in just a moment as I go through this presentation. Our topic for your consideration tonight is the Pueblo $1 million Reading Challenge. And Pueblo has an opportunity, unique, I think, to invest up to $1 million this summer to help our young people and our local economy as we work to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Could we go to slide 2, Daryl? Thank you. The project would be administered by the library. When we are working in partnership with the City of Pueblo, Pueblo County, and other local organizations, and I'll reference some of those in a few minutes. The proposal includes using some funds from the American Rescue Plan Act. As you know, the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, was passed into law earlier in March by the federal government. And both the city and the county anticipate receiving substantial funds from the U.S. Treasury under ARPA. The purpose of ARPA funds, as I understand it, is in part for local economic relief, including financial assistance to households. The proposed Pueblo $1 million reading challenge will do exactly this. And in addition, help our young people who have been detrimentally impacted by the pandemic. For the last several weeks, library team members, some of them are here with us tonight, have been working with representatives from the city, in particular Laura, Mayor Gradisar, and others, the county, and others on this project proposal. We are requesting the City of Pueblo and Pueblo County each individually commit up to $500,000 in ARPA funds to underwrite $100 cash payments to individual young people who check out 10 books from the library this summer and turn in a brief assignment to the librarian. The $1 million Pueblo Reading Challenge will assist our community specifically in responding to the COVID-19 disruption of local education with the reading exercises and support recovery of the local economy with the cash payments to individual young people. Could we go to slide 3, Daryl? There is an adage, you've probably heard it, kids who read succeed. I know it because it applies to me when I was a kid. I'm guessing it applies to most everybody in this room. And studies and data back this up as well and show that young people who grow up reading will enjoy improved economic outcomes and upward social mobility later in life. Pueblo's support for this will shine through clearly with the investment of up to $1 million in federal COVID-19 relief funds to be made available to pay our young people to read this summer. As I pointed out earlier, the program will be managed by the library, which will pay individual young people, local young people, to practice their reading skills this summer. The past year has been difficult for everyone. Our young people have suffered from reduced in-classroom school time and other restrictions on social activities due to the COVID-19 public health crisis. So to encourage young people to read this summer and to help them make up for some of the lost classroom time and to support the local economy, the Reading Challenge will pay $100 to each young person who checks out 10 books from a neighborhood library in Pueblo and provides a brief description of their reading experience to the librarian. The program is open to, or would be open to, any Pueblo County resident under the age of 18, and enrollment would be open in June, beginning in June, and continue through August. There are an estimated 37,000 Pueblo County residents who would be eligible, according to some of the recent U.S. Census data, and the library district hopes and plans to sign up as many as 9,000 local young people this summer who could earn the $100 by doing the simple exercise that I just mentioned. Check out 10 books, turn in a brief assignment to the librarian, a synopsis report of at least one of the books. So 9,000 young people times $100 is $900,000. In addition, each young person could earn a $10 bonus for keeping half of the $100 payment in a savings account for 6 months or longer. That would be $90,000 if we max out. So that's $990,000. The additional $10,000 to get to 1 million is basically a contingency. Importantly, the library is not seeking any administrative fee for the project at all. This is an important time for our healing and recovery in this community, and this program is one way. I think it's a pretty simple way the library could help. The library is working with Bank of the San Juans to ensure secure and proper dispersal of the authorized individual payments when a young person completes the summer reading project. Our program plan includes a number of checks and balances to protect against fraud and theft. We hope and believe the $100 payments will be spent locally to aid Pueblo's economic recovery. We also see an ancillary outcome in teaching early financial literacy skills. To that $10 bonus for those who keep $50 in a savings account is intended to help with that part of the program. So to participate in the program, a young person registers, checks out 10 books from the library, a neighborhood library anywhere in Pueblo, between June and August, and then provides the brief report or description of the reading experience to the librarian, and they'll be certified to receive the $100 payment. Books may be checked out inside the library via the library's curbside delivery service, which will deliver the books to curbside, or they can use library ebooks online. The library can check out mobile hotspots and laptops for in-home use to support the online part of the program as well. We've already established a web form in a demonstration format at this point, but there would be an online web form to enroll young people in the reading challenge with registration to include name, adult guarantor, contact information, and a unique identifier like a student ID or a library card number. Enrollment in the program also can occur in person at the library. It can occur online via the library's website or by calling the library. Could we go to slide 4, please? The library has already made some contacts, but we would work with local schools to publicize the program before the school year ends. And slide 5. The library also is reaching out to other local organizations. You see a list of them in your packet and on the screen to ensure a broad spectrum of young people are engaged in the program. We will track the books checked out via our online catalog and work with the local bank on the $100 payments, as I mentioned before, once the successful completion has occurred. Could we go to slide 6? We have worked out most of the processes with partners on best methods for marketing the program, enrolling participants, tracking progress for those who register, certifying those who complete the program, and making the cash payments in a safe and secure fashion. The program could result in thousands of new local savings accounts locally, and the cash payments will spur increased spending locally to benefit the community's economic recovery. And young people will benefit by earning the dollars for reading this summer. We will gather enrollment information, completion data, and use some other tools to evaluate outcomes of the program. Importantly, we are requesting that the City of Pueblo and Pueblo County each commit up to $500,000 in ARPA funds to underwrite the cash payments to the young people. A draft IGA or intergovernmental agreement to this effect has been written and has been submitted for review by the key partners. Daryl, if we could go to the next slide. The timeline is really important, of course. We are moving expeditiously to meet the key dates. I think we found out about this possibility maybe within the last month, but about 1 month ago, and we've been working diligently since then to put the pieces in place. It is an ambitious timeline, but the key partners are being nimble right now, and I think the project is in a good place for implementation. So I'm going to close by simply saying that I do respectfully ask for the City Council support, specifically for the city's commitment of up to $500,000 in ARPA funds for the project. I understand that there are some other steps involved in that, and I certainly stand ready to support those. If we could go to slide 8. This concludes my presentation, and I do want to thank you and appreciate you for allowing me to speak and for considering our proposal. And certainly if there are any questions or comments, I'd be glad to try to answer any questions for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Questions, comments? Councilor Schilling.
Thank you. And you brought your president of the board to, he's a pretty face, but didn't get a chance to talk much. John, how many, I like the idea, but how many kids signed up? Maybe last year's not a fair assessment, but the last 2 years.
Yeah, last year would not be a good number. We had 13,000 enroll 2 years ago, and we had about a quarter of that, but importantly, about 25% of those complete. So about 3,000 or so complete. I think our completion numbers will probably, I'm banking on or hoping for our completion numbers to go up this year.
Okay, so you want us to commit up to 500, but you don't want 500 right now. You want it as needed?
That's correct. We've sort of talked about this, and what we think we would do is as kids complete the program and they're certified as completed, we would basically invoice the city periodically during the course of this multi-month period that I described to you, probably at the end of each month.
So everybody's worked out the amount of time and accounting and work this, I mean, 9,000 invoices coming into the city?
No, it wouldn't be 9,000. We would group the invoices, and the invoice would come as a single number. Laura?
Okay, not one at a time then.
Not one at a
Okay.
time. They'll come to us one at a time, but ultimately, as it circles back to the city, it would be different from that.
Councilman Schilling, we worked with the finance department at both the library with Ms. Baca and with Terry Bauman in the bank and with our own internal finance, that we would receive one invoice between maybe the 1st and the 7th of July, and then again in August, and then again in September. And the city then would have to follow all of the compliance requirements for the ARPA Act, and then transfer the resources under the IGA back to the library. The agreement with the financial institution would be the library and San Juan Bank.
Okay, so you don't have to do, how much background check, how much work is this going to put on the city? I mean, I'm all for it, but it's got to be for 3,000 checks going out. There's got to be.
No, there's one distribution of resources in an electronic transfer only to the library.
Only to the library. Okay, and then the
financial
library.
relationship with the library.
Then
and
you
San
deal
Juan
out
Bank
the
does it.
3,000. Okay, I like that better.
That's right, yeah.
Well, we were
we
fortunate.
have been doing a lot of prep work on our end, by the way. When I mentioned to you about protecting against fraud and theft and some of those kinds of things on our side, of course, we're taking that very seriously, but we're going to take up that part of the burden in terms of each of the individuals working with Bank of the San Juans.
This is a program that the library district's been doing every summer.
No, I understand that.
So they had that framework in place. So
Okay.
obviously they're spending a lot of time enhancing it, but it's going to be minimal that the city has to do.
Okay, and everything will be John's fault. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that comment. But there's truth to that. I know there's risk here, but I think there's great reward. And so you know, we've had a lot of internal conversations, a lot of discussion. There's been a lot of work going on. I just think it's a unique opportunity. And I think it's worthwhile. Certainly our trustees have been involved in that as well.
You know, aren't we going to be, I mean, you're kind of one of the first ones coming out. Aren't we going to be deluged with people wanting money coming from this Fed?
Well, we already have been, yeah. But this is, you know, an idea that I think it gets the money out in the community immediately, almost immediately. You remember we did that presentation, we talked about the next 4 to 6 months, pushing some of this money out. This is a way to do that. And I can't think of a better way than sort of a summer employment program for young people in Pueblo. And the employment program is we're going to pay you to read this summer. And it's just a win-win.
I'm all for it. I'm all for the program. I just, if, seems like we're going to get a lot of requests what we have, and how are we going to make the decisions? Who's more important than the other one? I guess we leave that up to you and go with your recommendation.
I'm happy with that. But, you know, obviously, we're going to bring it to you, and you'll see on the May 10th, the agreement to implement this program will be there.
Okay.
This is obviously the first, I think. And like I say, it's compared to the amount of money we're getting, not a very large amount of money, $500,000 from the city. The county's agreed to put in $500,000 as well to make this program operational and to do what we can for the young people in this community.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I just have one question. It has to do with the accounts that the children will have. If you run across a child that's undocumented, as an example, are they going to have a problem with the bank in getting an account?
As I understand it, they'll have to have an adult guarantor. But I don't, if the adult guarantor has the proper credentials, then I think that that is the key matter, as I understand it.
Okay.
Not the child, but the adult guarantor. And so we've been talking about that. And some of the organizations that we listed up there before, the adult guarantor for the account may actually come not necessarily from a parent or a grandparent, but it could come from another individual.
I think it's a great idea, and I certainly support it. I mean, it's just, you know, one of our city councilmen is not here, and you probably know that Ray Aguilera has started a program with about 3 schools in which he doesn't use the reading, but he uses vocabulary as an incentive. And he's really made some great strides just incentivizing the kids with a trip to go see the Rockies or to do, you know, I think they get cash and they get pizza and all of that. And it's really worked well in elevating the amount of vocabulary words that they learn. And this really complements that. And I just think it's a great idea.
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned Mr. Aguilera and consider him a friend. And I'm sorry that he's not here tonight. I work a lot with Ray. He's always advocating for his schools and with the library as well. And so we do a lot of work with him.
Well, thank you for the work you do.
But I think you're exactly right. I think that incentive can be meaningful. And when I think about the $100, I think about a lot of the kids in our community who can really use, and families who can really use the $100.
Right. Thank you.
Councilor Schilling.
John, I want to kind of jump on what Dennis just said. I personally don't care who's documented. If some kid reads those books, I want him to get $100. And I don't care whether they're parents. I mean, I don't care. I want them to get the money.
Right. I do too.
So you'll make sure that happens.
That's right.
Okay.
I agree. That's why I think it's really important as we work with organizations like Posada, Boys and Girls Clubs, and some of the other organizations to help us with some of those pieces of this program. And we're fully prepared and have already started that outreach to ensure that we're engaging kids from all over our community.
Is that it? Well, is that it?
Yeah, just
I guess I'm somewhat confused, and not by you guys, but we've had all these meetings on this money, and I just keep hearing we have no idea what we can spend the money on. And now we're having a presentation on how we're going to spend the money. So set me straight on that.
Well, sure. I mean, we wanted to get out in front of this because obviously a summer reading program needs to take place in the summer. You can't delay that.
So you know it qualifies.
Well, yeah, I believe it does qualify. Now, do I know it? Yeah, I believe it qualifies as aid to the community. You know, aid to people who've suffered from COVID-19, to families, individuals. Yeah, I think it does qualify. And we can call it a summer employment program. We can call it, you know, whatever we need to, but it's going to qualify. And I can't imagine that there's anybody that would say, no, this is not an appropriate use of this money. When, as Mr. Walker indicated, hardly any group of people besides young people were as badly affected by COVID last year with what happened to their education. And I think this is an effort to restore at least part of that. And it gives them a chance to get some money. And they're going to reinvest in the community. And Bob, you should know that everybody's going to get that $100, even if they can't establish a bank account for whatever reason, you know, they'll get $100.
You know, and I don't want anybody to throw anything at me, but I'm just going to ask the question. I mean, the money is set up, and one of the big deals on this on this Recovery Act is the help for small businesses that were affected through COVID. So when you look at $500,000, $500,000 is 50 businesses at $10,000 a piece. Okay. So I understand this is a fantastic program. It all makes sense, but it would be nice if we could see if there's X amount of dollars, what do we believe, how many businesses in Pueblo, Colorado have been affected by COVID, and how many are going to reach out for money? Because in my opinion, and I think you and I have talked about this, is that when that money becomes available, you're going to have to open up again to businesses to apply to maybe help with some of the losses that they've had through COVID that haven't been taken care of yet. I just want to make sure that we have enough funds to cover the small businesses that have been affected by this. And, you know, if $500,000 is a drop in the bucket and there's no problem, you're going to be able to take care of all the small businesses, then I'm good with it.
Yeah. Well, in my judgment, there will be enough money to take care of small businesses. As we heard from at least one small business last year that their business was sort of devastated and still is undergoing devastation. Gyms, for instance, workout facilities that are having issues now. Their business is still affected. People aren't coming back. Some don't come back because they don't want to wear masks. Some don't come back because nobody's wearing a mask. It's you know, the businesses are really sort of caught in the middle. So I certainly anticipate that will be one of the programs that you'll see rise up, is aid to small businesses. Now, remarkably, a lot of our businesses are doing pretty well. And you can see that in the sales tax returns. Now, some of them have been hurt, but remarkably, our small businesses are doing pretty well. We actually had more business licenses issued in 2020 than we did in 2019. So and fewer closures in 2020 than we did in 2019. So, but there will be funds available for small businesses. We'll have to determine what the parameters of that program are. It's obviously, in my mind at least, not as an emergent need as it was when there was a stay-at-home order and we went and got $5 million out of the Petco half-cent sales tax fund to make sure that they were able to pay their rent and replenish their inventory when they're able to go back to work. But I think there is a need for small business relief and aid. And there'll be money available for that.
Can I follow up with your question a little bit?
Did you have Councilor Winter?
Yeah. I guess I'm a little confused because you said that we did this every year. So is this going to be part of the relief money, or is it already in the budget since we do it every year?
No, the library district has done this program every year.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm a little confused.
they
Now
haven't-
you're talking about relief money. So
So we don't pay kids the unique part of what we're doing here is the payment to children or to young people to read. That's the unique part of it. So we do a summer reading program every year where we encourage young people to read, but not like what I just described in terms of the payments.
Okay.
And the financial literacy piece as well.
Counselor Schilling.
I think Mark and I are trying to ask the same question. Is there one bucket of money and we're going to want to pull some of it out for the library, but you're sure we can give some to the business? Or is there nonprofits a separate bucket of money and small businesses another bucket?
It's all one bucket of money.
Okay,
And we can allocate it however we like.
So I
within
think
the
we're
rules and
trying to say
regulations.
yeah, so we don't want to give it all away without knowing all the people that need it, right? Isn't that what you're asking?
That's all I was saying is,
Yeah.
and I think you say it even better than I do, is that all I'm worried about is that we have enough money to ensure that our small businesses are taken care of that have been affected. That's all.
Don't
This
give it
is a
all
great
away.
this is a great program, and we should do it, but not at the expense of maybe something else. Councilor Flores.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that. What are can you name the 7 pillars? I don't think all this money was intended to go just to small business. It was intended to be spread out over a lot of other areas.
Individuals, families, nonprofits.
Yeah, whatever.
Small business.
So to say that, we're going to take money from Peter to pay Paul here, I mean, it's intended to gives us the decision-making power, but I think we have to be equitable across the board. Could you cite the 7 pillars?
Yeah, go ahead.
The PowerPoint is available on the city's website, but the 4 criteria for spending under the ARPA Act as were provided was the first one.
Can you get closer to your mic?
I can, yes. The first criteria was to respond to the public health emergency with respect to the corona disease and its negative economic impact, including assistance to households, small businesses, nonprofits, or aid to impacted industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. So under the 7 pillars that were identified as potential funding for the city, they all fall under that umbrella of number A. And then it goes on to a B, workers performing essential work, providing premium pay that the mayor spoke with respect to our public safety officers, the provision of government services to the extent of a reduction in revenue that we talked about. Our final audit would indicate whether the city could or could not use any of those resources for the replacement of revenue. And the last, to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. And those are the 4 areas.
Everybody good with that? Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Thank you. Thank you
It's
very much.
clear as mud.
I will just suggest to City Council, we will be on a timeline as we approach our summer, as you understand. So I hope that you'll be able to support the program in the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for all you do. Okay, we go to number 5 on our agenda, which is the Center for Financial Empowerment, the Bank On program. We pulled 3 ordinances off of first reading last week, and we asked for a work session on them. And I believe we're going to do all 3 together just to give an overview of what the whole program is about. So we have Laura Solano and Shelley Dunham. Hello, Ms. Dunham. Thank you for being here.
Oh, glad to be here. Mr. Chairman, City Council, Mayor Gradisar, thank you for the introduction, Mr. Chairman, of the impetus.
Can you hold 1 second? Can you shut the door? We'll just. Could you guys go out in the hallway? Huh?
Do I get closer to a microphone? Okay.
You're all right. Let's just do it.
All right, to start one more time. And thank you for the reminder that the impetus for the presentation was three ordinances that come before City Council next Monday, May the 10th. The initial ordinance will actually establish the project, appropriate and budget the funds upon your approval. And the two subsequent ordinances amended the 2021 staffing ordinance, and the third to establish the pay scale for a 2-year grant position identified as a on fellow within the grant. And before Shelley presents, I was going just to give you a brief introduction that this bank on grant opportunity falls within the Cities for Financial Empowerment arena. We have heard this evening 3 or 4 individual presentations with respect to financial empowerment, particularly aimed at youth and increasing their financial literacy. The grant will provide a platform. It's intended to provide the platform for a coalition of our local partners of financial institutions and other agencies with the goal to improve the financial stability for unbanked and underbanked individuals and families within our community. The grant does follow at looking at the priorities from the mayor and city council identified as development, particularly with a key goal, affordable housing. Additionally, last year, City Council approved a capital improvement plan that included 2 important plans that are currently underway and near completion. The Pueblo Regional Comprehensive Plan that is jointly entered into with the county that had a $50,000 supporting distribution from the city is being coordinated out of the planning department by Mr. Scott Hobson, includes this year for the first time a last section of social and equity component to that comprehensive plan. And the second is the strategic housing plan and needs assessment, where you improve the investment of $60,000 plan that is being coordinated by Brian Gallagher out of our housing department. And both of those plans are near completion. This particular grant, which is really exacerbated by the COVID pandemic to individuals, it is not focusing on housing development or shortages with respect to structures or facilities, but rather on assistance to individuals. It provides for a window of opportunity, was used as well, to obtain financial readiness assistance that will assist in transitioning individuals into being able to obtain either affordable housing or to prepare for a mortgage, to look for what a job can do with respect to savings accounts, reducing their debt or increasing their credit score. And the need for the resources, Shelley's going to go into in a minute. And I just have one percentage to share. According to the data from the Urban Institute, the current unbanked households rate in Pueblo is 8.6%. And that is the number of households that do not have a savings account or a checking account in our city. In Colorado, that percentage is 4.2%, and across the country, it's 6.5%. And so the unbanked by definition is, again, individuals that have no checking and no savings account and cannot pay for an auto repair, a dental repair, an appliance repair within their homes. Shelley prepared a comprehensive slide deck with several slides that you have a hard copy take-home information on the cities for financial empowerment, a library of grants, and I will send it to you electronically as a good reference. But this evening, she's going to walk us through some grant details on a modified basis and then talk about the individual staffing for the 2-year grant period. Any questions of me, or we roll over to Shelley's presentation? Keep going, he says.
Excuse me. Last year was a teachable moment in a lot of ways. We all know that. One of the things that we learned working in the mayor's office with all the work that we did through COVID was that we have an awful lot of people who are very financially vulnerable in Pueblo and that are just one tiny bill away from being in big trouble financially. And that's really what started us down the road of working in the area of financial empowerment, is really trying to correct that situation, make it better in our community. We know that poverty and financial instability lead to homelessness, crime and victimization, domestic violence, hunger and food insecurity, lower educational attainment, and poor health. We also know that if you help people provide financial services and financial opportunities, that equals financial empowerment. And we also know that financially secure residents help make a financially secure community. If the people that live in our community are financially strong, it certainly makes our local government stronger and our entire community stronger. Laura talked a little bit about affordable housing, and I talked to Brian Gallagher today, and he said that the 3 biggest barriers to people getting into affordable housing in our community are credit scores, income, and criminal background. Financial empowerment isn't going to work on criminal background, but certainly the credit score and the income area is something that is important for here. You can go to the next arrow. Thank you. So we have our relationship with the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund. We actually have 4 grants. The first is the Financial Navigator, and that was our first grant. And what that does is it's a number that people can call and talk to a financial navigator. Let's say they're behind on their rent, or they are having trouble paying their utilities, or they don't have a bank account and they're worried that the only way they can do is to get a payday loan or a car title loan, that type of thing. The financial navigator can walk them through different situations and help them prioritize their issues and help refer them to resources that can help them. And that's been live since August of last year. So we've been helping people throughout COVID. The second grant we received is the one called City Start. And with that grant, we are building a blueprint. So we've done a lot of outreach to stakeholders in the community, a lot of nonprofits who are already working in this area, because they'll really be our partners. The point of our work in financial empowerment isn't to duplicate services that are already here, because we already have a lot of great work going on in organizations in the community. The purpose that we have is to convene that and help make sure things are coordinated, so we're using our limited resources in the best way that we can. Plus, as a municipal government, we have the ability to bring dollars to the community and to this issue in ways that nonprofits don't always have. And so, frankly, the nonprofit partners that we've talked to over the last several months have been very welcoming of the city's involvement in this, because they see the importance of a role of someone to be convening all of the parties to make sure everyone knows what everyone else is doing. And then the third grant is this Bank On Fellowship grant. And this is to establish a Bank On coalition and hire a fellow that will be paid for partially by grant funding and partially by city funding. You might wonder why it matters whether people have bank accounts or not. And there's a lot our rate of unbanked households is about twice that of the United States as a whole. Well, if you don't have a bank account, you can't write a check. You might have to use a check cashing place that's going to charge you money. If you don't have a lot of money in the first place, and then you have to pay to cash a check with money you can't afford, it just puts you deeper in the hole. You might fall prey to payday lenders, car title lenders, pawn shops, other type of financial institutions that are not probably the most favorable to people who are in a pinch financially. So the ability to get people in bank accounts that have that aren't exploitative in the fees that they charge and the overdrafts is really important, because not all bank accounts are created equally, and not all bank accounts are affordable for people. And so that's the point of the program, to be able to help people get banked. Diana Escobar runs the Pueblo Workforce Center, and one of the things that she runs across as they are placing people in employment is that most places require you to have payroll deduction, like the city employees have to have payroll deduction. Well, if you don't have a bank account, that's a barrier to employment. And so she's excited about this because she knows that this is a way to help close that gap and be able to help people be able to have a bank account so they can be gainfully employed and receive their paycheck by payroll deduction. So there's just lots of ripples throughout all areas of people's lives that make this a really important thing. And then the last grant that we have is the most recent. It's the Financial Empowerment Center Planning. Financial Empowerment Center is something that the Cities for Financial Empowerment Fund have implemented all over the country. One of the first was in Denver, and they are really one of the stars of that program. They've done wonderful things up there. And a Financial Empowerment Center provides free one-on-one financial counseling for people, any person who needs it. And it's delivered not inside the walls of city government, but it's delivered in partnership through local organizations like nonprofit organizations and such. So that's the last one, and we'll be coming to you with that very soon with ordinances. Go ahead, Daryl. So I'm just going to give you a couple of stats. So for instance, in Pueblo, our liquid asset poverty rate is 43.3%. That means that 43.3% of our households in Pueblo can't go 3 months on a subsistence poverty level if they lost their income. And so just to tell you, a poverty level is $1,000 a month for a 1-person household and $2,200 a month for a 4-person household. So almost half of our households don't have enough money to sail past that 3-month part, even at poverty level, which is quite a bit higher. I mean, that's nearly double the Colorado rate. Go ahead, Daryl. And then we have also one of the big things, and this relates very directly to affordable housing, is that we have a really high rate of the folks that make $50,000 or less in their household paying more than 30% of their income for their housing expenses. And of course, if a third of your income, your third of your paycheck is going for housing, that doesn't leave a lot for everything else that you need to buy in your life. And it certainly doesn't leave a lot to put away money for emergencies like a car breakdown or an appliance repair or a large medical bill. CFE fund is not new. They have been around for quite a while, and they have worked all over the place. They're in 104 cities in the United States, in 39 states and Canada. So they're a partner that's been around, and they provide technical assistance to many communities throughout the country, and we feel fortunate to be one of them now starting in 2020. And then finally, the staffing request that we have on the City Council agenda next time is for someone to be a bank on fellow. So that person is going to do the things that are listed on the screen. They're going to help build and manage the coalition. They're going to help make partnerships and maintain them within the community, administer the program. They're going to help with sustainability and fundraising and building a learning community among all of the organizations we work with. So the position will be specified as a grant-funded position, and so that anyone who applies for it understands that the continuation of the position is dependent on continued grant funding. A large part of my job in this financial empowerment process is finding other funding sources as we go forward. Luckily, there's lots of communities that are doing this across the country, and so we have lots of examples to learn from on how to do this. There's cities all over the United States that are sustaining this work over years and years because there are funding sources for it, and there's increasing interest in funding this type of work among foundations and other funders. Laura, I think she has something she'd like to add.
Well, I wanted to thank Mr. Jagger for being on Zoom. I think part of the question that arose last week at the initial reading of the first reading was why and how the position at unclassified and at will versus classified and not at will. And our city code and our charter provides for only those two areas. And if Bob, if you would be so willing to help us with a further explanation about how this position is unclassified and at will and why.
Yeah, the primary reason is because it's, can you hear me? The primary reason is because it's a grant funded position. It's 2 years only, and it can be terminated at will. As such, you're going to want to have it be an at will position. If it's going to be an at-will position, then it really can't be in the classified service. Anybody in the classified service after they serve their 6-month probation are going to have civil service status. So the positions in the unclassified services are obviously generally at-will appointments, other than, say, for example, your municipal court judge who's a term appointment. The appropriate designation under our charter for this type of position in the unclassified services would be an assistant deputy mayor, bank on fellow.
Thank you, Bob. And additionally, other cities with bank on grants have been suggesting that the match from the cities could potentially be sourced from some ARPA dollars going forward. But since our grant, again, the window of opportunity was to start now, there's no holding back the grant and the implementation, and we can look at that perhaps in year 2 or as we move forward if council does approve not only the receipt of the grant, but also the 2-year grant period employee. And does that conclude our presentation? And happy to answer questions.
Thank you very much for that report. Questions? Councilor Winter?
So I was a little confused about the job title and also the job description that was listed. So why is it an assistant deputy mayor? Why is that the title of the position?
The title of the position by explanation in our charter, the only classification open until we come forward in next budget cycle and put in a grant position is called assistant deputy mayor. But a working title will never, no one will ever see that. Once you establish that classification that's already there or approve that, we will advertise the position as a bank-on fellow, and that's what's included in the grant requirement.
Okay, has anybody read the job description on here?
The job description included.
Yeah, can you read the job description to us?
You have the job description?
Yes, please, just the job description.
Oh, just the
Primary
very
job
first
duties
paragraph?
included.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Under the general supervision of the chief of staff, the bank-on fellow will be a member of the bank-on fellowship cohort who will work collaboratively to provide the leadership to bank-on initiative to make significant advancement in local banking access efforts. The fellow will be responsible for directing and realizing the vision of the bank-on coalition, overseeing day-to-day operations and coordinating with the CFE fund. This fellowship is a minimum 1-year commitment with the expectation to continue to lead the bank-on coalition beyond the fellowship. The job description is an overview, isn't intended to describe the general nature and level of work being performed. It is not intended to be an exhaustive list of all the functions and tasks required of the position. And then it goes on to list the specific duties.
Yeah, that's what confused me, the specific duties.
I think
Primary
this
job
is just
duties.
I think this is, is there a specific part of the essential
Well, it
duties?
just sounds like a go out to lunch kind of thing. I just wondered what was going on with that.
Well, the job, if I can kind of just encapsulate it, what this person will do, first of all, that when they first come on, they'll be trained by CFE fund on the program, so they understand the program. And then what they will do is they will help, they will work on building the coalition, which means they build relationships with the financial institutions in the community with the goals of having some financial institutions offer what they bank accounts that meet the national standards for safe and affordable bank accounts. Right now, we only have one bank in the community, and that's US Bank that does because they offer it nationwide. And so we'd be looking to expand that. And then they would be working with our nonprofit partners like the United Way, who does, the United Way does the, I can't remember what it's called, but it's a program to help income tax preparation. There's an acronym, but I'm not remembering it. VITA. And so what they would do is they would work with United Way to connect with them so that if people were there getting that service, then they could help them open that bank account so that their income tax refund could be directly deposited into their new bank account, that type of thing. So they'd be working with building those community relationships and building those connections so that as someone who is maybe with the Pueblo County Human Services and they're receiving benefits from some program, that they could establish a bank account and be able to receive those funds that way. So that's the kind of work they would be doing, and they would be marketing the program to the community so that people knew about it and doing outreach that way as well. Perhaps going to places like food distribution pickups, where there might be a lot of people who might be in the situation of being unbanked, to be able to educate people and let them know about the program.
For me, reporting to the chief of staff, there'll be one key additional job duty, and that is the data collection. And so when the grant speaks to increased credit scores and decreased debt and how many bank accounts have been opened and how many are ready, for affordable housing, and how many do we refer to NeighborWorks for the whatever rental assistance or mortgage assistance payments, the data collection and reporting that is required into the grant, into our technical advisors, as well as reporting in the grant and to you, would be important point out of the mayor's office as we transition to a data decision-making model for this.
Okay, I just think it sounds like a duplication of services already. I mean, if those organizations going to be doing the main outreach, it seems like they would. I mean, I don't know why you need a full-time position for this, just for data collection.
I wouldn't anticipate those organizations to be doing the outreach, because their plates are already so full right now that they are very welcoming of having someone to be able to coordinate the program and carry that weight so that they can provide
So
the
what do you
service
do
that they
now? Do
provide.
they just refer them to US Bank at this point? So you just need more banks, or I don't understand.
I don't think they get referred at all right now. I don't think that's happening. That's what we're
Mhm.
hearing anyway.
Hmm.
So this is a gap in our community.
Okay. All right. And then there was something, I think it was on the very first ordinance on first reading, that the numbers didn't add up correctly. I think it was on the second page. Not that it matters that much, but it's not, doesn't add up.
We can take a look at that before it comes to you next
Okay.
meeting.
Counselor Schilling.
Thanks, Mark. Maybe I'm like Lori, or I'm on by myself. I'm really skeptical of spending this money. A couple of things. Explain to me, when you talk about a grant, are we getting a grant for somebody, or we're giving the grant out of general fund?
We have received a grant from the cities for a financial empowerment fund.
Okay, so we're spending no city money.
No, there is a match for this from the city.
54,000?
Yes. Oh,
Okay.
I believe that's the amount.
Initially 54,000 for the 2-year commitment.
Okay.
But what they're suggesting is the 1-year commitment, and then looking at our other resources like ARPA funds that would qualify potentially for helping individuals overcome the COVID pandemic issues.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys, but to me, this sounds like a wishes with horses, beggars would ride. You guys getting 38 points on average credit score increase. That's nothing. That's not going to help anybody that you're trying to get a bank account with. Their credit score goes up by 38 points. That's nothing. I mean, they got a credit score probably 400, and you got to get us over 7 or something, or higher. I'm not seeing a big benefit here. That alone is really nothing. It'll be nothing. If you need a bank account and don't have one, those points are going to do you no good whatsoever. You said financial, and I'm sorry, that's my opinion, but I'm guaranteeing it's true. Financial Navigator, who is that? Is that a person the city pays?
We brought to you about last August the Financial Navigator grant in partnership with the Pueblo NeighborWorks.
Okay, so we're paying somebody to answer the phone?
No, sir, the grant paid for them to answer the phone. But what they're doing when they answer the phone is providing assistance to the caller, and we have referred many in our data collection to the state for access to rent relief, hunger relief, mortgage relief, how to address medical
Okay, is that
bills.
somebody sits here in the city, in City Hall or something? Okay.
No.
No, they're at NeighborWorks
The
on
grant
Route.
provider is
Okay.
NeighborWorks, and there's one individual called a Financial Navigator who works 40 hours a week
Okay.
through the grant period, and it expires in the end of July unless we extend it from some other grant resource.
Okay. I wish you well, but I don't see stars and wonderful outcomes. I think it's one of those things like former police chief said, all the good we try and do with people coming out of prison, and you got about an 85% revisitism. So
Recidivism.
I don't know if this will work any better than that. The intention's well, and God love you for doing it all, but good luck.
I think it has worked all across the country. I mean, they've got the numbers in Denver and we're fortunate that Denver is agreed to mentor us through this as well, and they've had fantastic results.
Well, again, I'm going down to the credit report, and that's what it's all coming down to is how
Well,
do we
but that's
encourage
the
credit
average. So
report?
that means some of them may have gone down or stayed stagnant and others went up much larger. You're absolutely right. A 38-point score for any individual doesn't make you much difference unless you're moving from, fair to good or, something like that. If you're right on the
If
cost.
you're at 400, you better get 200 higher. Anyway, God
Yeah,
love
oh,
you.
sure. Yeah.
That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Councilor Tencio.
Yeah, I could see the benefit of people who are not bank customers. I know of two businesses in town that cash checks, and the lines at these two businesses on Fridays are a block long, literally, of people trying to get their checks cashed. And they're getting gouged basically because they don't have any choice but to cash their checks at these two particular places. But if they had a bank and if they were able to get banking services, a lot of these problems that are illustrated in this handout could be alleviated. And so I'm in favor of this. I really am. So I think we should do it.
Councilor Flores.
Did I hear you say that this could qualify potentially for the American Rescue Act? And so it would be foolish for us not to use $54,000 to continue this program. There used to be a joke in Pueblo years ago that people used the 7-Eleven as their bank because they didn't have a checking account, and so they were always getting gouged. And as we know, credit scores, definitely the people that are in poverty, they pay the highest interest rates. They don't know how to navigate the financial system. So I see this as a real benefit. And I understand that the average, there could be some people that are raising their scores 200 points and some that are maybe losing. And so, the average, who knows? But I mean, your credit score is so important. And if nothing else, teaching people how that works and how that's going to affect their future if they don't get their life in order. The thing that really interested me is the poverty rate, and also we're almost twice as high as the average in Colorado. And so I believe that if you look at this new act that's coming down the pike, when they talk about helping households, I can't imagine anything more important than educating them, as to how to use credit, how to get a checking account, how that works. And I think that was the intent, of this act, is to try to guide people and help them. Obviously, we're not going to help everybody in this, but if we could even make a dent where we're not twice as high as everyone else in Colorado, anything below that would be success, I think. So I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, Councilman Flores. And, part of the individual support from our community is HUD, is Mr. Pacheco through housing, who has said, I can see requiring our clients to actually participate in financial education, down the road here as this last grant is implemented. And the same with NeighborWorks is, when someone walked in the door, they would already have the knowledge and become prepared. And so when we talk about not only the inventory of affordable housing, is now we have readied the community to actually transition into acquiring and getting into affordable housing. And I think, Dennis, you said it well the other day at one of the town hall meetings about a fish.
I remember when I was young and I had a wife and a kid and I was poor. I mean, dirt poor. And I didn't have a checking account. And I would do exactly what people do now. I would get my paycheck from my boss. I think back then I was making $175, $200 a week. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't 50 years ago. That was a lot of money. So, but it was a while ago. But let me tell you why I didn't have a checking account. I didn't have a checking account because my life cost me everything that I made. So every dime that I made that week, I had to spend immediately to feed my family and to live wherever we were living and to try and stay afloat. The last thing on my mind when I was in poverty was thinking about getting a checking account. I was mobile. You know, I didn't have an address for very long. We were moving here, we were moving there, we were trying to get our lives together, and it was just tough. And I think I like the concept of helping people get checking accounts and making them steady in the economy or whatever. But the reality of it is when you look at our numbers and you see the number of people we have in pure poverty, every single dime that they make and every check that they cash, they spend within 24 hours probably, or 48 hours. And checking accounts are just so out of their whatever. So I'm not trying to make an excuse for that. My big question is that of the $54,000, is the $54,000 what the salary is, or with benefits and everything's included?
It's for salary and benefits. That's correct.
Okay, so that.
But it is the city's match to the 2 years period.
No, I understand that. Okay. I just want to know that that's all the money.
Yes.
That it's not 54,000. Then the other thing that concerns me is that, you know, again, don't throw anything at me because I just always bring this up. But here you have a $7 million deficiency, well, probably more, and we're adding more to the pot, and we don't have any plan to adjust that. We just keep adding and adding and adding. You $54,000 here, 25,000 there, 6,000 there, and at the end of the year, you're $8 million in the hole. And it just becomes troublesome because when the grant's over and you cannot secure any other funding from somewhere else, then this employee will never go away. This employee will be here for the next 50 years. I know you guys are going to tell me that will never happen. Mark Aliff, you're goofier than a bed bug. It's never going to happen. He's never going to stay, or she's never going to stay. But the reality of it is that he or she will probably stay, and this will be a budget item from now on.
Councilman Ayla.
Yeah.
The reality that
I'm crazy.
That Mr. Jagger just explained, that the reason for the classification is it is an at-will employee with no rights to stay. It is for a temporary 2-year position and is hired that way.
Right, but you know, maybe I'll be at that next meeting where we're trying to adjust things in the personnel to make sure that person can stay. Councilor Winter?
Yeah, why I was saying it was a duplication of services is, you know, I would much rather see this money go to the agencies that are actually dealing with these people, to send them to US Bank or whoever it is that's going to help them. I don't think we need a full-time city employee to be doing this list of requirements that just about any idiot can fulfill, when we already have people that are experts. Exactly, read the job description. When we have people that are already experts in the field doing outreach. So I think it's a duplication of services. I would rather see this money. I don't have a problem with accepting the grant, but I would like to see this money go to say Neighborhood Works or United Way to do that, to manage that, not the city.
Well, it's very likely that once this grant period is over, this position migrates from the city to a nonprofit. And so that the idea of it being a forever position in the city is not incredibly likely, because in most cities, that's what happens, is the position migrates to be part of one of the nonprofits. After the training and the initial, and the city gets the coalition founded and done, then the position migrates. So that's a very, you know, that's a very good thing. And that's something that the CFP fund has talked about. I mean, they've done this over and over again in a lot of different cities, and they've seen how that works, but they also believe, based on their experience, that it's important for it to start in the city before it gets turned loose into the community. Because during those 2 years, we're going to learn which partner really is the best equipped to be able to take that position on and do it well and serve the whole community and not just their constituents. Because that's often what happens, is that the focus is on their constituents instead of the entire community. Whereas,
well, that's why you can kind of spread it out. I mean, every one of these agencies has somebody that answers the phone. So why can't they give them the information about the bank accounts?
Well, with all due respect, this is a little bit more than answering the telephone. This job is, and maybe
No,
that's not
I'm not
conveyed very
saying
well
that.
on
I'm saying
here.
that they answer the phone, they find out what's going on, they direct them to the services that they need. So if it's US Bank, you give them the contact at US Bank, correct?
I think there's a little bit more to it than that.
Okay.
I think this position is not a financial navigator position. So it's not the same as you call and I'm going to provide you resources and I'm never going to meet you face to face.
Well, Neighborhood Works is excellent with that. They've had people that they've provided that actually got off Section 8s and own their own house now. So, I mean, they're pretty much experts in that.
Well, and that's why the data, and I don't disagree at all. It is just what the data supports, that we individually on the slide that says Pueblo partners engaged in the stakeholders, they're so siloed that what they individually do is not come together in a coalition to do this either collectively for the city or all following the same thing. So the many individuals that find themselves in this position of needing to increase their financial stability, they're not accessing these resources, and they're finding only places like Pueblo neighborhoods if they find themselves there, and that's why their support.
So who do you have in mind for this position?
An advertisement. It's not been handpicked. There's not an individual that's come that I know of for this position.
Okay.
Councilor Flores.
When you're applying for this grant, you're applying it with the condition that the city is going to be running this. We can't be changing the rules as we discuss this and modify your grant to go left or right. You have a path that you're going down to get this money to begin with. So you're not asking us, or we don't have the ability at this stage to be changing the rules on the grant that you've applied for. Is that correct?
Our grant assumes that the city will employ
Yes.
the bank on fellow for the period of this grant, which is 2 years.
Right. So what is this?
It's the next thing.
In any event, again, somebody mentioned that this was going to come out of the general fund. Our intent is really to walk this through the money that we're going to be getting from the feds, aren't we, to try to get the 54,000?
The first year is going to have to come out of the general fund. Next year, we might be able to bring half of it out of the ARPA money. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Just wanted to clarify that. Thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. That was great information. And obviously this comes up for second reading next week, and we'll move on from there. So, but this is great. And I would ask all the council members if you get surprised or have questions of first readings on any agenda item when it comes up. I think this is an opportune time and on a work session to suggest that we take something and we have it in a work session like this, because I believe we get more done in a meeting like this, and we're more vocal, and so I'm just, if you would like to continue to do that, I'm very supportive of that and would like to do it. And thank you for your report. And thank you for what you do for the city. You've been a great asset. I can tell you that right now. I mean, everybody knows that. Yeah. So I guess we do have some additional business, Counselor Winter.
Yeah, this won't take long. I do want to kind of backtrack a little bit on the COVID issue. I think if one thing that we learned from COVID is to stay home when you're sick. I'm sure all of us have gone to work when we're sick. And also, I think it's important to kind of limit your handshaking. I'll never forget one Monday night when I served those first 2 years. We had someone in public comment that was sick. And when he was done, he came up and shook all of our hands. And that following Monday, every single one of us was sick. Well, you weren't here then. Well, I'm sure you don't remember, but I do. Every one of us was sick. And then we had some recognitions, and those people turned around and shook all of our hands. So I'm sure we just spread it to them. So I think it's important to when somebody comes up to the microphone, if they don't feel comfortable taking off their mask, I don't think we should tell them to take off their mask. I think that people that have pre-existing conditions are the ones that really probably need to make that choice to keep the mask on or off. And also I don't know what else I was going to say about the mask, but anyway, and then also to kind of turn around and shake everybody's hands. I think it's a little too soon for that. As far as the mask wearing goes, when we were talking earlier about herd immunity and all of that, I think it's important that people that are vulnerable are educated to wear a mask, whether there's COVID or not. If you have pre-existing conditions that could cause you to die, you should probably have a mask on whenever you're in a public situation. So that's all I had about that. But I wanted everybody to know that I talked to Louis Carleo and asked him if there was some way we could donate that property to him if the Sons of Italy would take it and be responsible for it. Of course, he said absolutely. So the little bit of research that I've done stated that the cities can donate property if we determine it has no value. So if we can determine that the statue has no value and say the property, either the statue only or the statue and the property have no value, we should be able to donate it. There's also some things that I read about donating property that we can donate it if it's for historical preservation. So we could donate the statue and the plaza possibly as an object of history and remembrance for the Italian community, which is also a civil rights issue, and the Sons of Italy to maintain that section as historical preservation, and it's already on the National Historical Registry, but for them to maintain that status. I figured that our city attorney would come back to saying it's a right-of-way, et cetera. But the city always has the power of condemnation, so I don't really think that would be an issue. If we were not to donate the property, we could also lease it. Say donate just the statue portion and the plaza portion, and then lease just that little bit of property for, say, 30 years. And of course, you know, every lease is revocable. And then I just listed some things on here that where I found it for historical preservation and that the property has no value. So anyway, any brainstorming?
Lori, are you saying the property has no value?
The city would have to determine that little chunk has no value to the property.
That would be an appraiser that makes that determination.
Right, but
Okay.
that it has no value to the city.
That's an appraisal question I can't answer.
My question
I
is,
have no idea.
my
Right,
question
right,
is why?
Well, you know, it is a civil rights issue on both sides. So if the Sons of Italy were to own that property, they would take responsibility for insuring it, for keeping it safe if it needs to be safe.
They'd have their own police force?
Right. They would. I mean, if that's what it would take, I doubt if you would need a police force for it. I think that, you know, the thing is that the city is spending a lot of money to kind of block off that section of the city every Sunday. I think it was like 12 grand a month.
That's what we did last year.
Right.
We're not doing that this year.
Okay.
But giving the property to somebody else doesn't help the problem at all.
Doesn't help the
We
problem.
still have to
Okay.
provide police protection. If people are down there tearing up private property, we do that all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really move the ball forward.
Okay, well, nobody was tearing at private property. And you know, the point I made in work session the other day was that nobody's taken down the statue. So I think that if we gave it to the Sons of Italy, it's obviously a civil rights issue to the Italian community, that would be their property. So it would no longer be city property.
And I don't understand how that helps resolve the dispute.
I think Lori's trying her best to figure out how we can solve this.
Right,
may or may
right.
not
I
work.
mean, it doesn't matter what I say, you know, people are,
You may
I mean,
have
this is a brainstorm here, so.
Yeah, you may have to accept that it might not work, but at least trying to come up with some, so I'm going to defend you on that part for trying to come up with some idea. I don't think it solves the problem either, like Nick said, but God, at least somebody's thinking of how we can try and get out of this mess.
Well, but there have been discussions. The discussions haven't taken place publicly because that's probably not the best place to resolve this, to try to do that. But I've had and reached out to both sides and had discussions about what if we did this, what if we did this? And, you know, we haven't been able to get it done yet.
Yeah, same here. I sat for 2 hours with the Sons of Italy one day, and I sat with 2 hours with the other side, and
You know, Concelia solved that problem before with the lady statue, and I was hoping.
And that's on private
yeah,
property.
that's another
Yeah.
story altogether, though.
Well, but there's not that kind of emotional involvement with that statue, obviously.
There has been thousands of man hours spent on trying to negotiate a resolution to how people feel about that. And quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of listening to it and having it come up every time we're sitting around. But I think this council made a huge mistake back when it first started, of not making a stand. Either say you're going to take it down or say you're going to leave it up.
Or even to get it on the ballot.
Make a decision.
Yeah, I mean, at
We
least
tried to put it on the ballot,
Right.
and the people against it came in here with 50 people and said, no, don't put it on the ballot. It doesn't matter what you do. It's not acceptable. It's not acceptable to anybody. But here's why council has left themselves open to this back and forth all the time, is because nobody makes a decision. Nobody will bring forth a resolution to take the statue down so we can have a vote, whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it. But those people, I think they deserve to know that either council's not going to do it or council's going to do it.
Well, I guess by saying that the Sons of Italy own it, then, you know, really it takes the city out of the issue. And then
let's just pass them the buck.
Well, it's not really passing the buck. I mean, you know, if Sons of Italy, it's on private property, it's their right to have their remembrance area, their civil rights area, and you take the city out of it. I mean, it's sitting on city property. I mean, that's the problem. And if Sons of Italy realizes that it's a huge problem for them to deal with it later, then maybe they would move it. But I think the answer is to turn it over to them. And I don't think it's passing the buck at all. I think the issue is that it sits on city property.
Well, the answer to Mark's question is I polled each one of you as to where you stand. We don't have 4 votes to take it down.
No.
We don't have 4 votes to keep it up. So,
where we stand.
well, as far as I told people, whoever, and I told the Sons of Italy and I told the other group, we don't have 4 votes to keep it up. We don't have 4 votes to keep it down.
Right. And, you know, that's kind of why I was telling.
Until somebody changes their mind either direction.
How could you not have 4? You got 7 councils. There's 4 for something. It's impossible not to have 4 votes.
Right. And you know, even if you had 4 votes, and that's what I was explaining to Tomas on Monday night, is that the mayor can veto. So that they really needed to talk to the mayor as far as if it stays up or comes down. So again, I don't think it's passing the buck. I think I'll just keep repeating myself, but I think that if it was owned by the Sons of Italy, it would be, I think the whole situation would be over. I really do. Otherwise, that statue would be down. It would be down right now.
Why isn't it?
That's a good question that I don't think anybody wanted to answer. I don't think they want to mess with the Sons of Italy, to be honest. That's what I'm saying. So you turn it over to them, they own it, it's over. It's not on city property. I'm talking the truth, and you know, you can giggle all you want, but I'm sure that's why the statue hasn't been pulled down. It's been pulled down everywhere else in the nation, but here.
Well, and in my judgment, you know, you can see what's happened around the country. What I've told everybody else
Right.
is, you know how this is going to end. Either the city's going to take it down or somebody's going to pull it down. That's how it's going to
It would
end.
have been pulled down by now if they weren't respecting the Sons of Italy.
Say this is, here we go. And I understand this is a work session, but we can go on till 10:30, 11
Right.
o'clock
Please.
tomorrow night, going back and forth about this.
Mhm.
If you want to bring forward, my suggestion would be this, and I'm purely a suggestion. If you want to bring forward and work on whether we can donate property or whatever, I suggest that you work with the city attorney's office and the mayor's office and bring forth the required stuff and let people vote on it. And I think that if somebody here wants to put it up for a vote, whether city council wants it to get taken down or left up, then that needs to happen.
I think the
That's the only way
majority,
it's gonna-
I think the majority of the population here in Pueblo County don't care.
Right.
It's the Sons of Italy, and it's the group that wants the
Right.
statue down, and we're in the middle.
Well, until they get it solved, it's not going to get
Well,
solved.
We represent the entire community.
Right.
And we don't represent Sons of Italy. We don't represent the protesters exclusively. We represent everybody. And if the word is that the entire community could care less whether it's up there or not, then it should be a no-brainer that we would vote to leave it up.
Right.
If we represent the whole community and your assertion is correct. And I guess if that came forward as a resolution to leave the statue up, you'd get 100 people in here saying to take it down, and you're
Right.
going to say, get 100 people in here to
Right.
leave it up.
Right.
And
So-
nobody here wants to go
Right.
through
So
that.
we're in the middle, and you
That's
know,
why it
we're
hasn't happened.
we're right, and we're in the middle, and I have to say that I take most of the brunt on social media, probably because I'm a woman. If you know, and that's true. So if I say take it down, I'm going to have that side just calling me a racist, because they're already calling me a racist on social media. I mean, if I say to take it down, I'm going to have all of us would have Sons of Italy all over us. But the reason all this is happening to us is because it's on city property.
So move forward with.
We would have to, if you want to do that, I think we would need to,
I'm not saying that.
if we have the interest in doing that, we would have to set aside, I don't know,
Okay, let's have a poll.
$10,000.
Dennis, do you have any desire to move forward with investigating whether?
Let me finish here. Let me finish. If everybody's in favor of that, I think we need to put aside 10 to 15 grand for a specialist in that field to advise us.
About what? Specialists in what field? Appraising?
Well, an attorney, like a real estate attorney or some kind of
They don't
trusted.
know anything. They don't know anything
trust
about
attorney.
appraising. Laura, I agree with Mark, because I want to go home. But if you want to put any of us, if somebody wants to put a thing to take it down, I mean, we're all talking about, let's see but who's got the balls to do that? And you want to bring it up, then let's write it up and get it over with. Lori, if you want to do that, it is going to come down to an appraiser. A real estate attorney is going to tell you whether what he said is legal or not whether or not he's correct on the value.
But we're looking at the only people that see that as history and remembrance and civil rights for
I'm
them
not
is
arguing. I'm
is
just
the
saying if you want
Italian
to do that,
community. So it's really of no value to the city.
well, we don't get to make that decision,
Well,
unfortunately.
Dan said that the city can make all decisions on property, on real
Not
estate.
without getting an appraisal, correct, Dan? We just can't figure our own value and give it away.
And we have the power of condemnation. So if we wanted to get rid of that entire median, we could condemn it and just get rid of it later on if we donated that little piece of property.
Wait a minute, I asked Dan a question.
I
Can he
know.
finish?
I remember working closely with Councilor Flores on this and with the mayor. And Councilor Flores' suggestion was that we turn the statue and the median over to the library district. And I said, well, it has value, so we just can't give it away, but we can give the library a revocable permit to manage the statue and manage the monument. So the way to do it is a revocable permit. That would be legal.
So Lori could bring up that we give them a local permit, see how the vote goes.
Not for the library, it would be for the Sons of Italy,
Yeah,
right?
to the Sons. Yeah, we could give the Sons of Italy a revocable permit, and they would take responsibility for maintenance of the statue.
So can we just bring that up and do it?
You know, I don't, yeah, I suppose you could, but then you're having people for or against this ordinance, et cetera. Yeah, right. I mean, right.
Having met with both sides, I don't think that the protesters would accept that distinction, saying, well, nothing's changed except that the Sons of Italy have a revocable permit. But I leave that to you. I just give legal opinions.
Councilor Brown.
So if we give it to the Sons of Italy, could they move it somewhere?
Oh.
No, they're not going to move it.
I'm asking a
Yeah,
question.
that's right. You can ask a question.
Could they move it somewhere?
Could they, if we gave it to them, sure.
Because I think they could find a place that's, you could see it for miles.
If it were moved to private property, that would be the best solution. But
Yeah, that's why I was saying to donate the property. So
I
it gets
don't
it out of
think,
us.
but we can't make it private property. It has some value. So the revocable permit is an option. The best solution is to do what the Concilias did, as Councilor Winter said. The Concilias said, you don't like naked women? I mean, Diana is very famous in Mexico. Statues of Diana. It's a cultural thing. And so the Concilia solved the problem by moving it to private property. If the Sons of Italy did that, I think that'd be a step forward, but I don't think that's on their agenda.
So how can the city say that little tiny piece in the median has value when you can't develop it or do anything else with it?
Because
it would have to be an
attached-
appraiser.
It's attached to a monument and a right of way.
Well, the right of way doesn't matter, I don't think.
It has value. That statue has value. Just the bust has value.
But it has no value to the city. It only has value to a certain group. So.
Well, if an appraiser will say that bust of Columbus has no value, then,
I just think
But
that this is going
I
to take
think
a
we're
lot
on-
of, a lot of
That's
investigation
why, that's
to
why,
make it happen.
that's why I said that if this is a road that you want to investigate, we need to put aside some money
Okay.
for
Dennis,
legal services for that.
I just want to make a couple of comments. Almost every issue, every question, every nuance to what we've discussed tonight has been dealt with extensively when we had mediation, when I met with the library board, when I met with one side and the other side, and there's no budging here. Either the Sons of Italy, I mean, their position is clear. They don't want anybody touching it. They don't want to move it. They don't want it given back by the city to them. And on the other side, one of the difficulties about the mediation was that they had 6, what we did is we elevated both sides to the same level to try to solve the problem. And at the end of the day, they really got nowhere because it was either take it down or leave it up. And that's what it finally, that's what we have right now. And they want us to make the decision on one side to take it down. The other side wants us to respect the fact that they gave it to us as a gift to the city and they want it left alone. Now, if we do use a revocable permit or we grant the land, whatever we do there, it doesn't change anything. The other side is not going to be less passionate about taking it down or more. We still are going to have to provide police protection, whether we own it or we don't own it. So we're boxed into a corner, and I don't know where we go from here. But almost everything that was discussed tonight, I mean, we've gone over.
We haven't really discussed the property not having value and also the city being able to donate for historical preservation. So I think those are the loopholes we can go with to give that property away.
Then I think that needs to be investigated. I think that you need to work with the city attorney and make it happen. And then come back and tell us this is how it can happen. And then we have the opportunity to say whether we want to do that or not. But we're purely speculating now that it can be done or it can't be done.
I was just going through what Supreme Courts were saying. That's all. I was just reading.
I think it's great work, and I think that it's I think you are thinking in the.
No, I'll give you credit for that, sure, but it doesn't change anything. And frankly, the last communication I had, not with the Sons of Italy, but somebody that's very close to them, they have said they will probably abide with any decision that's made, except they don't want city council to make the decision.
Exactly. So
they don't want city council to take it down. So if somebody comes by with a truck and tears that sucker down, they'll live with it. If it stays up, they'll live with it. So
Right.
Guess what's going to happen?
That's what they told me too, as long as it's not the city. So I think we should just, if we get ourselves out of it, then
I think
either
what we've
stays
done
up or it
throughout this whole
pulls down.
process is basically respect the Sons of Italy and respect the other side too. We've paid deference to both sides as long as we can. And I don't think that's a bad thing either, to tell you the truth, because that's what I came out of my meetings with the Sons of Italy and out of my meetings with the other side is there's a mutual respect there, but then there's still a problem.
Well, we're the problem. We're in the middle.
Well,
clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
Okay.
So I don't know. I would be happy to work with legal counsel. I don't know if Dan would be happy about that or not, but maybe you could have me work with Lisa or somebody.
No, I would be happy to work with you, Councilor Winter, and you are correct. It has historic value. It, in fact, is on the National Register. And could we donate that bust to the Sons of Italy legally? The answer is yes. We can donate it, just the bust, not the rights of way, nothing else, but just that bust of Christopher Columbus. Could we donate that to the Sons of Italy for, and then they would maintain it? That's legal.
So since the city has condemnation rights, especially with the right of way, I mean, you can write anything you want in a contract. So if you just do that statue and that little plaza, not the whole median, just that little section that's not worth anything to us, but it's worth something to them, with condemnation powers for right of way, we should be fine.
Well,
Why not?
It's
Let him answer.
con-
Let him answer. Let him answer.
condemnation-
Let him answer.
Condemnation
It's a little tiny piece of property.
is apples and oranges. Could we donate the pillar that holds up the bust that has the inscription in Italian? Yeah, we can donate that. You bet. I don't think that solves the problem, but.
Well, it
I
does in a
think
way.
I think it, but I'm just telling you what's legal and,
Okay, so what if we donate what you just mentioned, the bust, the pillar, the plaque, and the plaza, and we lease that little dirt that sits underneath it for 30 years at $1,000 a year?
Yeah, we could probably do that. And how does that help?
It helps by what I just said. It takes the city out of it. If the city, you know, it's like what Larry just said. They have said that to me too, as long as the city doesn't take it down. I don't think it'll come down because I think it would have come down prior, but it takes us out of it.
With all due respect,
Yeah.
this has to be conversations that go on for a presentation to city council. We're not going to solve this tonight. We're not going to be able to come back and have a presentation. Dan's not going to sit there and say, you can do that, absolutely, and here's what we bring back to city council. I just don't think this is the place to talk about this.
Well, we got somewhere. I mean, Dan said we could donate the bust and the pillar and the
I think you should continue.
and then we
to
can
work with Dan to bring
lease
it
the little
forward.
piece of land. We can lease the little piece of land.
you've got three options and I give Councilor Winter credit. Could we lease it? Yes. Could we do a revocable permit without compensation? Yes. Could we donate it? Yes. Those are all legal options. And if she can tell me how to prepare the ordinance and I'll prepare it. But all those options.
So let's go with the
are
lease and
correct.
a donation of the statue.
It does not solve
Well, that doesn't,
anything. It
okay,
solves-
well then,
But, you know, I was
it
here.
takes us out of the middle and I think this,
But-
I think
but
the
Sons of Italy-
statue would still stay there.
The Sons of Italy are clear. They do not want that bust removed. They don't want the
Well,
monument
if it's
removed.
their own property, Louis said, absolutely, give it to us. That's what he said.
But the other side,
Who
we-
cares? We're out of it. Like I said, you can say that's irresponsible, but it's not. It's a civil rights issue on both sides. It really is. You're honoring the Italian community on one side, and I mean that it's civil rights issue on the other side as well. But this is you
Bring it
have
forward.
the Italians have to have something. I mean, it's been there for years for them, and if they don't want to believe all the new information that's come out, I mean, they don't. I mean, you could go anywhere on new information. I mean, look at all the information that's out there on COVID, for Christ's sakes.
Bring it forward.
Right.
The last thing I have, to only take 30 minutes.
Oh, shit.
I'm
So
jacking
I'm
with
not going to waste my time.
So,
if-
Mayor, you have sent an email out saying that you have a presentation on May 10th on sales tax. That's an all-day deal, so I'm going to boot Mount Carmel and Fountain Creek Watershed. Will you handle that?
What days? Why do you think that's an all-day deal?
I think it'll take up an hour and a half. That's a pretty big ask.
Okay, I
We'll
still need,
schedule the
I
other
still
two.
need, are we,
You'll handle that?
I still need
So
to know
now-
how much support is on this, or I'm not going to waste my time.
Go for it.
I need a count.
I'm gonna give you, I'll support listening to anything.
I don't mean listening. I want to know if we could vote on that, what we talked about tonight, Would
Well,
you
see-
vote yes? That's what I'm asking.
Then you're asking for a vote, which we can't do in a work
Okay,
session.
okay,
So
okay,
what
okay,
I'm
so
saying is this.
How many people
let me
want to
finish.
continue with that?
Let me finish what I was going to say. I'm saying you've just sprung on us a whole different take on this statute. Okay?
Mhm.
I think every counselor here will have to spend many minutes, hours, whatever, talking to their constituents and investigating on their own whether it has merit. You're asking us to make a decision tonight that, yeah, I'd support
No,
that.
I don't want to
I'd
waste my
support getting
time
rid of that.
if this is dead in the water right now. That's all I'm saying. And you would also, you
I
wouldn't want to
think-
waste your time either.
I've wasted my time several times with this council. So I would tell you that I think that you've got a great idea and that it's worth looking at and it's worth investigating. You could have another work session on it after you get all the particulars, and then we can say, hey, this is that really does make sense. And I will have time to have talked to my constituents and the people that I would need to talk to see if it's legitimate
Okay.
or not.
All right.
Fair enough.
To me, I'm with Mark. I'm suggesting you proceed. If you're looking for the other votes, ask them. You got two here to proceed.
Larry?
Go ahead and proceed with this one.
So there's a no.
I'll listen to anything.
Okay.
We'll listen to anything, Ed. Listen.
Okay.
If
All
you
right.
can get us out of this, Lori,
Do the
you're a
hard work.
genius.
So with that said, is there any other business? Let's go home.
Oh.